Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our first session in the Spring 2021 Hiring Event Series. Today, we will be hearing from 8 presenters who will be conducting job seeker workshops to help familiarize you with the skills that you will need to be successful in the virtual hiring space. Our first 2 presenters will speak for approximately 1 hour each to give you some information about crafting your resume and interviewing skills. Our final 6 presenters will provide an overview of local resources available to job seekers. If you have questions at any time, please type them into the chat and we will address them during brief Q&A sessions that will be taking place after each presentation. If you have not yet already, please be sure to register for Wednesday's informational session with employers and Thursday's breakout room session, where you'll have an opportunity to communicate directly with employer representatives. A link to that registration page will be provided in the chat. I just want you all to know you will need to be sure to register for each of those sessions individually. Also wanted to let you know that today's session is being recorded and will be made available in the employer booths for you to refer to later. Before we go ahead and introduce our first presenter for the day, I just wanted to go over a couple of things. As you see here, we will be having just a brief breakout room for screenshots. So if you are interested in getting a screenshot or headshot, if you will, you can go ahead and join the breakout room that we have created for that. I have not opened it yet, so you will not see it, but once I have, there should be a prompt letting you know that the room has been open. So you can join that at any time during the presentations and get a headshot, if you will, if you are interested in doing so. In order to be able to join those breakout room sessions, as you'll see on the screen here, you'll need to be sure that you have the most recent version of Zoom Client for Meetings downloaded. You can download this at zoom.us/download. And then here you'll see up on your screen, just real briefly, a couple of screenshots as to how you can go ahead and select the breakout room option that we have there available. As you see in your toolbar, if you move your cursor, if you're on a computer, there should be an icon that says breakout rooms. You should be able to click that and you'll be able to join the room. As you see in the second screenshot there below, you'll just click that join button and then you'll automatically be redirected to the headshot or screenshot breakout room, if you will. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and introduce our first presenter today. She will be covering how to craft your resume, if you will. Rosie, are you available to present?
Yes.
Enter your meeting.
You can begin whenever you are ready, Rosie.
Yes. Once again, good morning, everybody. And thank you once again so much for attending our Spring 2021 virtual hiring event. I really appreciate all of you for taking the time out of your schedule to attend in. Once again, my name is Rosie Carter, and I will be your facilitator for this morning. And I'm going to be looking at selling your strengths and enhancing your brand for your resume development. Next slide. Okay, what I'm going to be covering is tips for marketing yourself. Now, why do we need a resume in the first place? The reason that we need a resume is because we want to sell ourselves. Of course, you want to sell yourself. You want to sell your skills. You want to sell your quality. The employer do not know you. The employer do not know anything about you. So you want to be able to present yourself well on a piece of paper called a resume. So of course, I'm going to cover a few highlights on how you can do that, how you can brand yourself, how you can market yourself so you can get that interview that you've been waiting for. Next slide, please. Okay, the contact information. And when you're crafting your information on your resume, of course, you're going to have contact information, which is at the top of your resume. Now, you want to center it. You want to have your name, your address, your email, and your phone number. Now, in terms of address, I know sometimes customers do not like to put their address on their resume. And actually, the address is optional. For the most part, when an employer contacts us, it's either through phone or email. So actually your address is optional, because I've had quite a few customers say, you know, Ms. Carter, I'm really uncomfortable writing my address on my resume. And that's okay. That's okay. You could just include your email address and the phone number. Now, in terms of your email address, please make sure you have a professional email address. Your email address says something about you. So if you have these little crazy email addresses like purpleunicornfan@yahoo.com, well, that sends out the wrong message about you. So in your email address, it should include your name, rosiecarter@gmail.com, Mary Smith, John Smith@gmail.com, your name. Now, also too, in terms of email addresses, we don't want to date ourselves with our emails. If you are still using AOL, you're pretty much dating yourself. You're aging yourself. You know, AOL is the email that we use when we first started off years ago using email. So if you're still using AOL, you're pretty much dating yourself. So you don't want to do that. Gmail is acceptable. Yahoo is acceptable. And there are a few others also acceptable. In terms of your phone number, you want a phone number there so I can contact you, and make sure it's a working phone number. If that employer call you and if it says it's not in service, it's disconnected, they are not going to keep calling you. Just that simple. So you want to make sure you have a working phone number. Also too, you want to make sure that when you're writing your resume, you know, you don't have to put P for phone or E for email. I mean, it's obvious. If you have a number there, it's obvious that it's a phone. Or if you have an email address, that it's obvious that it's an email address. So you don't have to put the word phone or email. So little sample at the bottom there where it says the person's name, Bill Shakespeare, has his address. Once again, the address is optional, the phone number, and as you can see, a professional email address, which contains his actual name. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, on your resume too, at the top, you can have an objective versus a professional summary. Let's look at the difference between the two. Now, an objective tells the employer what you want from them, what you expect from them. Okay, what you want, what you're looking for. A summary tells the employer what you can do for them, what you can offer them. So let's look at the difference here. An objective statement says, what I want from the employer. Example, I'm looking to utilize my education and my skills to secure a job with a respected employer with room for advancement. That's telling the employer what I want. I'm looking for, this is what I want. I want to work for a respected employer, and I am looking for room for advancement. So an objective tells the employer what you want from them. Now, a professional summary is what I can offer you, what I can bring to the company. Bilingual automotive and sales specialist with over 10 years diagnosing, maintaining, repairing, troubleshooting automotive using troubleshoot codes and scanners. My education includes Universal Technical Institute, Ford Motor Company, technical training, General Motors, etc. So you are telling the employer what you can offer, what you can bring to the table. Now, when should I use an objective versus using a summary? If you have limited work experience, you should be using an objective. So for example, a person right out of college, I would not expect that person, of course, to have a lot of work history. So that person can use an objective. If you have extensive work history, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years of work history, you should be using a summary because you should have a lot to offer. So using a summary, you want to tell the employer, this is what I can give you. This is what I can offer you. So that's the difference between using an objective versus using a summary. Next slide, please. Next slide. Very good. Thank you. Thank you. Now, another important thing is the ATS system, or the applicant tracking system. Now, before your resume actually gets into the hands of an actual manager or hiring person, it goes through what we call the ATS. So you want to also make sure that your resume is ATS friendly. How can I do that? I can make sure that I use keywords. You should include keywords throughout that resume, in your summary, as well as in the body of your resume. Where do I get the keywords from? You get it from the job description. Each resume that you prepare should be customized to the job description. There should be no such thing as a one-size-fits-all cookie cutter resume. It should be customized to a particular job. For example, say if I want to apply for a position as a truck driver, that's a resume. Say if I see another job in retail that I want to apply for, that's another resume. Say I saw something in the medical field I want to apply for, that's another resume. So there's 3 resumes already. So you never use the same resume for all the different jobs that you want to apply for. You customize the resume to a particular job so that it can get past the tracking system. If your resume do not get past the tracking system, what's going to happen to it? It's going to wind up in what we call a black hole. Okay, so what happens is when the scanner, and that's all the tracking system is, it's a big scanner. And when it scans your resume and it looks for keywords from the job description, if it does not see those keywords or key phrases from the job description, that resume is going to wind up in what we call cyberspace, or a black hole, which means that it's just hanging out there. Nobody sees it. Manager never sees it. So therefore, you always want to make sure that you customize the resume according to the job description, or according to the job you are applying for. Now, when you pull out those keywords and key phrases from the job description, you want to make sure that you write the words or the phrases just as they appear in the job description. You don't have to worry about plagiarism. It's not plagiarism. What you're trying to do is make sure that when that scanner scans that resume, it picks up those keywords directly from the job description. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, in our resume too, we want to use what we call hard skills. There are hard skills and there are soft skills. Okay, let's look at the difference. Hard skills are those skills that are teachable. You can quantify them. You can demonstrate them even before you start the job. You can demonstrate those skills. For example, suppose I applied for a position as an administrative assistant, and I told the employer, I said, Issa, I can type 80 words a minute. So Issa said, bet, show me. So what is Issa going to do? Issa is going to give me a typing test. I can demonstrate. So Issa is going to say, okay, Rosie, get on this computer and demonstrate for me that you can type those 80 words a minute. So I get on the computer, get the typing. Either I can do it or I can't. That's what we call a hard skill. I can demonstrate it. Suppose I wanted to apply for a position as a forklift operator. Stand up, sit down, doesn't matter. So the employer says, okay, Ms. Carter, here's a forklift machine right over here. Demonstrate for me that you can operate this forklift machine. So I get on the machine. Either I can demonstrate it or I can operate it or I can't. Just that simple. That's what we call hard skills. Those skills that you can demonstrate, that you can quantify even before you start the job. So you want to make sure that you include in your resume those hard skills that that employer is looking for. Soft skills. What are soft skills? Soft skills are usually characteristics, skills from within. They're not teachable. They're either internal and you have them or you don't. You cannot teach me how to be nice. You cannot teach me how to be friendly. You can't teach me how to be outgoing. That's something that comes from within me. So you want to make sure that you focus more on those hard skills than soft skills. And your soft skills, for the most part, I won't see them until I actually hire you, because you can present yourself one way in an interview. And then when I hire you, wow, you show me a totally new person. So those soft skills, I won't see until I hire you. But the hard skills, you can show me them ahead of time. Also, in a resume too, you want to include what we call the need to know versus the nice to know. There's some things in a resume that an employer need to know before they hire you. Then there's some things that's nice to know. So let's focus on the need to know. Let's give a little demonstration. Truck driving, okay? I like truck driving. Why? Because a lot of our customers who come in for training, they want truck driving. Okay, so let's look at what I need to know for a truck driver. Now, that employer may need to know that you have excellent safety and driving record, that you have a CDL Class A license. They need to know that. They need to know something like you know how to pre and post trip your vehicle. They may need to know you know how to maintain your log sheets. They may need to know that you can drive in all type of weather. They may need to know that you have endorsements such as hazmat, tankers, triples, doubles, confined spaces. They may need to know that, and that's good. Now, other things sometimes people put on their resume, it's a bunch of nice to know stuff. It's okay, but when you put a bunch of nice to know stuff, you're really taking up a lot of space that you can use for other things. What would be some nice to know for a truck driver? Oh, Miss Carter, I can type 80 words a minute. Well, John, that's nice, but I don't need that. Oh, Miss Carter, you know what? I know how to take vital signs. John, once again, that's nice, but you don't need that for a truck driver's position. So you want to make sure that you focus on the need to know versus the nice to know. You can list your skills, professional skills. You can put them in a summary if you like, or you can have a column form. Now, the problem that I have when you put them in a column, okay, that can throw the scanner off, because when the scanner or the tracking system scan your resume, they scan from left to right, left to right, just like we read. When we read from left to right. Well, if you have all those columns there with those bullet points, that could throw the scanner off. That's the only problem I have when we have a separate section called professional skills and we break them out in bullet points. That's the only problem I have with that. Okay, next slide, please. Next slide. All righty. Now, when we're writing a resume, we always write the resume in fragments, phrases, or clauses. Fragments, phrases, or clauses. Never full sentences. Fragments, phrases, or clauses. And you want to use bullet points. Why bullet points? Bullet points break out information. It separates your information. It clarifies information. At the beginning of each one of your bullet points should be a strong action verb. Always use action verbs at the very beginning of your bullet points. The action verbs tell me exactly what you do or what you did to perform your job. A strong action verb. The action verb should always be in the present tense if you're still there, or it should be in the past tense if you're no longer there. Never use action verbs in the progressive tense. The progressive tense are those verbs that end in ing. So you don't start a bullet point with a verb ending in ing. It's always present tense or past tense. You should always use action verbs that correlates with what you do. I should be able to look at your action verbs and right away, I know exactly what you do. Even if I don't know your title, just looking at the action verbs would tell me exactly what you do. For example, say if you're in management, these are the type of action verbs that I should see on your resume as a manager. Managed, supervised, executed, implemented, planned, strategized, saved, reduced. Verbs such as those, it goes along with or correlates with what a manager does. If you're in, say, teaching, like myself, or training, what kind of verb should I see? Instructed, facilitated, right? Monitored, taught, verbs like that. It goes along with the job. So always make sure that your verbs correlates with what you do. Should be no confusion in terms of your action verbs, because you want to tell me exactly what you do. You want to make sure that you put the company's name down, name of the company, city and the state, and you want to include the start date and the end date. Start date, end date, start date, end date, using the month and the year, preferably. Start date, end date. So if I am writing my resume, and I may put ABC Company, Chicago, Illinois, and then my start date may be January 2020, and maybe I left in January 2021. That's my start date and my end date. Now you could express the start date and end date using numbers, numerical or order, or you could use alpha. It doesn't matter as long as you're consistent throughout the resume. When you are expressing your accomplishments in your resume, you want to use numbers, dollar amounts, or percentages. Numbers, dollar amounts, percentages. Always use numbers. Numbers catch the eye. Now, what's the purpose of using those numbers? When you use numbers, it paints a picture for the employer. The employer can get a picture of you or what you do. Because when we think in pictures, don't we? Okay, we think in pictures. So, for example, if one of your bullet points says, answer the phone, it gives me a picture, but it's not clear. So what you want to do is add details, add numbers, so that employer can get a clear picture of what you do. So you may clarify it and say, manage a multi-line phone system answering 50 to 60 calls a day. Look at the difference. It paints a different picture. The first one, short, answer phone, doesn't say much. I can't get a clear picture. The second one, where you added more detail, you told me you managed a multi-line phone system. Okay, you told me that, added detail. Then you said you answer 50 to 60 calls a day. I could say, wow, oh, she's really working hard. But just saying answered phone, I can't get that picture. You want to paint a clear picture of what you do in the employer's mind. Another example where you may say, oh, I process transactions. Okay, that sounds good. Let's give some detail, put a little meat and potatoes in there. You want to say, I process sales transactions by cash, debit, credit card, and it generated $10,000 a day in revenue. Woo, wow, now there's a picture there. I see dollar signs. I see how you're impacting my bottom line. And that's why employers want to hire us in the first place. They want to know, how can we make money and how can we save money for them? And you have to reflect that on your resume. One other brief example. I like to use plain examples, nothing complicated. Operated a forklift machine. Okay, doesn't say much. But if I say operated a stand-up, sit-down forklift machine to load and unload 1,000 boxes and packages daily, this resulted in meeting departmental goal lines, deadlines, and quotas. So you see what I'm saying? You want to paint the picture. And when you add numbers, when you add details, it gives the employer a clear picture of what you do. So when I look at your resume and I see how you're adding numbers, dollar amounts, percentages, I can formulate in my mind a picture of you and how you can be an asset to my organization. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay. All righty. Next section can include my education and my training. So you want to include that on your resume. You want to make sure you include the name of the school you attended, the city and the state, the type of degree that you have, a certification that you have, and the year that you obtained that certification or degree. So a little example would be ABC Truck Driving School, Chicago, Illinois. You are going to obtain a CDL Class A certification, and your anticipated graduation may be 7/20/20 or 7/20/22, whatever the date is. So always give them the name of the school, the city and the state, the type of certification or degree that you will be obtaining, and then your anticipated date of completion or graduation. Same thing if you are going to college, ABC University, Chicago, Illinois, Bachelor's of Science degree in management, June 2021, something of that effect. So always add your education, your degrees, your certification on your resumes, and you want to include the most recent one. So for example, if I graduated from high school, say in 2015, and then in 2017 or 18, I have my bachelor's degree. Well, I really don't need to put that high school diploma there. And then once I obtain my master's degree, if I decide to go higher, I really don't need that bachelor's degree. So you always want to list the most recent one and the highest one. You can always eliminate the ones below. Next slide, please. Okay, professional references. Of course, your references belong on a separate sheet. You don't put your references with your resume. It goes on a separate sheet. Now, let's look at a few things regarding references. Now, some of us still put that little phrase at the bottom of our resume that says references available upon request. That's outdated, way outdated. So if I see a resume with that at the bottom, I know the customer really hasn't done any research lately about resume writing. Otherwise, they would know that's outdated. And you can always use that little extra space for other things. So if you have that on your resume, do consider removing it. Now, in terms of our references, there are a few things that we want to do before we use anyone as a reference. Before I just write a person's name down as a reference and submit it to an employer, there's some things I need to do first. Number one, ask. Ask the person if you can use them as a reference. Don't just go writing the person's name down. Ask them, Rosie, Bob, Jane, can I use you as a reference? Okay, so always ask. The next thing you want to do is you want to make sure that each one of your references have a copy of your resume. Always give your references a copy of your resume. Sit down with the person and go over that resume. Don't just give them the resume and say, read it. No, you should sit down with them to go over everything that's on that resume. So just in case the employer asks your reference a question about that resume, they can answer it. You also want to make sure that you have a good rapport with your references, because sometimes I have known references to badmouth people. So you want to make sure you have a good rapport, a good relationship with your references. Now, references are important. Why are they important? They are important because an employer can ask your reference certain questions about you that are illegal for them to ask your former employer. For example, if I'm doing a reference check on you and I'm calling your former employer, by law, EEOC guidelines, Title 7, the only thing I'm allowed to ask about you, your start date, your end date. Will I rehire? start date, end date, whatever higher. And maybe I can ask your title, something to that effect. But I cannot ask personal questions such as, how often did Rosie come work late? Did Rosie get along with other people? Was she a team player? I cannot ask those type of questions as an employer. Start date, end date, will I rehire? That's about it. Now, when I'm talking to your references, I can get a little bit more specific. So you want to be very selective in terms of who you use as a reference. Be very selective and make sure, once again, that you have a good relationship, a good rapport with these references. Your references should also be a duplicate of you because they represent you. So suppose I give an employer a reference and the employer wants to call that reference or email that reference. And my reference has this crazy email address, Joe Smo, a hot pants, crazy stuff, like that, an email address like that. I had one, mommydearest@yahoo.com, really crazy, okay? So that is a reflection of you. Suppose I call one of your references and the phone is disconnected. I can't get a hold of the person. That's a reflection on you. Suppose I call one of your references and they have this crazy music out playing. That's a reflection on you. So just like I expect you to be professional, I also expect your references to be professional as well. Your references should have a professional email address. Your references should have a working phone number. Your references should also have a professional voicemail. That's a reflection on you. So you want to be very, very careful who you use as a reference. Now, when you give them information, you want to give the person's name. You might want to give the title, what company they work for, phone number, and email address. Or ask the reference, what information can I share? The reference may only want you to share the name, phone number, and email. That's it. So ask them, what can I share about you with the employer? So be very, very selective in terms of who you use as professional references. Next slide, please. Proofreading. Okay. Before you submit a resume to an employer, to anyone for that matter, you proofread, you spell check, you proofread, you spell check again and again and again. Errors say something about you. Errors say you are sloppy, you don't care, you're unprofessional. That's what it says about you. So how can we proofread to make sure that we catch some of those errors before it gets to the employer? Number one, when you finish the resume, read it out loud so you can hear your own voice. Like I can hear my voice now. Read it out loud as you speak into the ether. You can hear yourself. So read it out loud. When you finish reading the resume, give it to a second set of eyes. Here, Bob, here, Jane, read this to me. So in that way, you have two people tuned in, listening for errors. And between the two sets of ears, you should be able to catch some errors. Now, I also suggest that when you give it to a second set of eyes, you give it to someone who's in your field. Why do I say that? Because many of the fields, professions, they use acronyms, they use various jargon that you may not be familiar with. For example, when someone brings me a resume that's in the technical field, IT. Now, I can proofread the resume for content, but some of the jargon or the acronyms that they use, I'm going to be honest, sometimes I don't know what that is. So I may tell the person, I can read this for content and so on and so forth, but I also suggest that you take this resume to someone who's in this field. So in that way, they will be able to tell you if the jargon is correct or if the acronyms are correct, because I may not know because I'm not in that field. Same with, say, the medical field. I can once again read it for content, but when you start using medical terminologies, BID, PRN, et cetera, I may not know what that is. So I would tell the person, I'll read it for you, I'll check it for you. Very, very careful of. And I see this all the time, all the time. The improper use of homonyms. Those homonyms, when we use them incorrectly, it gets us in trouble. You know, you've heard of antonyms, synonyms, homonyms. It depends on when you went to school, you may know it as homophones, but homonyms and homophones, all depends on when you went to school. It's the same thing. What are homonyms? Okay, homonyms are those words that sound alike, but they have different spelling and different meaning. Now, the system that you're using, your computer system, may or may not catch those. It all depends on what you're using. Homonyms, once again, those words that sound alike, but they have different spelling and different meanings. For example, there, T-H-E-R-E, that's a noun. That's like a place or location. She's over there. There, T-H-E-I-R, that's a pronoun. This is their house. This is their car. Or their, T-H-E-Y-R-E, okay? That's short for they are. So there, it all sounds alike. So even if the word is spelled correctly, but if you're using it in the wrong content, you're sending out the wrong message. And the computer may not always catch that. So you, the reader, have to have an eye for detail. Another one I see quite a bit with people, even in the medical field, patient, P-A-T-I-E-N-T, and patience, P-A-T-I-E-N-C-E. Okay, the patient was not very patient, or you have to have patience to work with the patients. So you want to make sure these little words like this, that you don't get confused. Here, H-E-R-E, here, H-E-A-R. Another one all the time I see, effective and affective. One has an E, one has an A. But once again, if it's used in the wrong content, it is wrong. Simple as that. So you want to check, double check, check again, or even there's a program out called Grammar Check. You could use that. That will help you out a lot too, because you don't want to submit that resume to an employer with all of those misuse of homonyms. Now you may say, Miss Carter, you got to be kidding. What employer would be that small-minded? Well, maybe to you it's small, but to that employer it's important. And you also have to keep in mind that you are competing with so many other candidates, and they may use that, something that's small, to eliminate you. So if they need to eliminate people, those mistakes can cause you to be eliminated. So once again, proofread, spell check, proofread, spell check, proofread again. Next slide, please. Okay, next slide. Okay, let's look at the format and the layout. Now, in general, you want to have a 1-inch margin all the way around at the top, side, and the bottom. 1 inch all the way around. That's kind of standard. Now, however, if you have a situation whereby you're using a 1 inch all the way around, and say if it pushes 3 or 4 lines on the second page, well, you don't want a 2-page resume and on the second page you got 3 lines. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go back and I'm going to adjust my margins just a little bit. So instead of having 1 inch all the way around, now maybe I'll have 0.9 all the way around, so everything can fit on 1 page. So you want a single space throughout that resume. You want to use single space, unless you're dealing with the headings. So if I have like a work history, then I may have space and then my bullet points. Education, space, then my bullet points. But other than that, you should use single space. You want to use black ink, black ink. None of this colored ink. And I see that with resumes too. And customers sometimes use that because they want the resume to look pretty. Well, there's nothing wrong with it looking pretty, but it's not about it looking pretty. You want it to look professional. And in order for it to look professional, you want to use black ink. No red ink, no purple ink, black ink. Also to borders. Do not use borders. Borders make your resume look like a picture frame. You don't want that. You want the resume to look like a professional document, not a picture frame, not a menu, a professional document. All of these underlines, I see that too. You don't need all those underlines because sometimes customers have their headings underlined, key information that they want to stand out. They want to underline. You don't need that. Underlines also take up additional space. Underlines can also throw the tracking system off. So you want to take those underlines off, take those borders off, take all of that off of your resume. You don't really need that. Font size, stick with a font size 11 or 12. Now, if your font size is too small, guess what can happen to your resume? It can get tossed in the recycling bin. So if I'm reading a resume, font size 8, and I'm doing this, that's taxing on my eyes. I'm not going to do that. So what's going to happen? I'm going to toss it to the side. And eventually it may wind up in the recycling bin. So you want to try to use a font size 11 or 12. Now your name can be larger because you always want your name to stand out. So my name can be a 14, my name could be a 16 because I want it to stand out. But the rest of the resume, an 11 or 12. You don't want it too large and you don't want it too small. You want to be consistent with the type of print style, a font style that you use. Now I see with most resumes, most people use Times Roman. That's fine, Times Roman is fine, but get familiar with other styles as well. There's what we call Garriman, there's Tahoma, Calibre, Cambria, Georgia. There are other ones you can use besides Times Roman. I'm not downplaying Times Roman, but the reason I'm mentioning it is because 90% of the resumes that I review, they're in Times Roman, okay? So if you have a resume, say in Garriman or Cambria, it stands out because it's different than the standard Times Roman. So get familiar with some other print styles that you can use as well. You want to stay away from fancy font styles though. Bookman, Walkman, Agarian. You want to stay away from styles like that. They do not belong on a resume. Those type of print styles are okay for flyers or brochures, but never for a professional resume. Let's look at length. I often get asked, Ms. Carter, how long should my resume be? Is it okay for my resume to be 2 pages, 3 pages, 4 pages, 5 pages? Is that okay? Okay. Now, if you have less than 10 years or less of work history, you should be able to fit your resume on 1 page. 1 page. If your work history, I would say, is 10 plus years, then you could go to 2 pages, never a 3rd page. No one wants to read all of that, okay? No employee wants to keep up with all that paper. So if you can, keep it on 1 page. And I would say within the last 10 years, if you have pretty stable work history, you probably shouldn't have any more than 3 or 4 jobs at the most. 3 or 4 jobs within 10 years. So you stay an average of 3 years on each job. Okay, 3, 3, okay, 3 or 4 jobs. That should be it. And you could put that on 1 page. So once again, if you have 10 years or less, 1 page, 10 years or more, you can fit that on 2 pages. It's okay to have the 2 pages. Now, if you are executive level or CEO level, they look for more. It may even look for a CV from you. And a CV sometimes can be 10, 15 pages, but that's not what we cover in our workshops. We primarily cover standard professional resumes. We don't do CVs. Okay, let's look at some of the things not to do, of course, with your resume. I don't prefer that you write your resume with a template. Now, I know most of the time when people have never written a resume before, the first thing they want to do is pull out a template. And that may be okay for a startup. Now, the problems that I have with templates is when you use standard templates that you get from online or what have you, when you get ready to make changes or revisions, it is very difficult to adjust and move information around. Sometimes when you fix something over here, it'll mess up something over there. So you don't want that. So I just recommend use Microsoft Word. Microsoft Word, simple. And that way you can cut and paste, change information around, move stuff around with no problem. Also, do not insert tables in your resume. Once again, charts and tables can throw the tracking system off. So you don't want to use all these graphs and charts and tables in your resume. Photos, never include photos. Okay, that can open up that old can of discrimination. We don't want that. The only time that I recommend a photo is if you are applying for a position as, say, a model, and the employer wants to see if you're very photogenic. So they may ask for a photo. That's okay. I've also seen cases where if you're in some form of entertainment and they want you to have a photo, that's okay. But if you're just looking at a standard professional business resume, okay, let's go to the next slide. Sorry. A standard professional, there we go. I'm so sorry. Standard professional business resume, you don't need a photo. Once again, you can kind of open up that can of discrimination, and we don't want that, okay? Do not include borders. As I mentioned earlier, the borders all the way around your resume. You don't need that. Throws the tracking system off and it makes the resume look like a menu or picture frame or obituary look. You don't want that. You don't use italics. The only time you would use italics on your resume is if you are making reference to an article, like a newspaper article, or you are making reference to a book title. Other than that, you don't use italics on your resume. You don't underline information. Underlining, once again, it takes up space. You don't need those underlined. And you want to make sure that you use your space wisely. So you don't need to put those underlines there. Okay, and wrapping it up, these are just a few tips, due to our time frame, and I want to allow time for questions, a few tips. And if you follow these tips that we have covered during this little presentation, I guarantee that you can produce a better quality of a resume and you will get those hits. Thank you so much. Once again, I appreciate all of you for taking your time out to listen to us. And if there are any questions, I'm free to answer. Any questions?
Thank you so much for that presentation, Rosie. And as Rosie stated, at this point, for the next 10 minutes or thereabouts, we'll go ahead and open up the floor for questions. The primary means by which we'll go ahead and do that is through the chat. So if you have a question for Rosie regarding any of the information that she covered, go ahead and throw that question into the chat, and I will do my best to get your questions answered.
Okay, we have about, I think, 10 minutes or so. And
I see a question real quick here, Rosie. This individual asks, with the job market the way it is including your vaccination status on your resume a good idea?
Putting your what? Vaccination?
Yeah, vaccination status. Would putting that on a resume be a good idea?
No, I don't particularly think that you necessarily need to put your status out there. I mean, the employer may or may not want to know that, but I don't think you need to put that on a resume.
Excellent.
If they ask you that in the interview, you could share that, but I don't see the need to put it on a resume.
Understood. Thank you for that, Rosie. And Rosie, I've got a couple of questions regarding LinkedIn. You had mentioned photos. A lot of people want to know, LinkedIn, a lot of times folks have photos on their profiles. What do you have to say about that?
Okay, and with LinkedIn, that's a little different. It's not directly your resume. Okay, so when you go to LinkedIn, you want to make sure you have a professional photo there. And then we do have workshops and seminars on LinkedIn. But yeah, you want to make sure you have an updated photo there and a business professional photo there as well, primarily headshots. But once again, not on your resume.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Rosie. And Rosie, we did receive another question. This individual asks, how should we create a resume without using any templates if we are not very computer savvy? Any suggestions?
Okay, right. And that's why I said, I know with most people, when they're starting off, yes, they do start with templates. And I do get that. Now, there are services that you can go to, like what we offer here at Southwest. There are services you can go where you can get assistance with your resume. But, if you for a startup, it's okay. But then, as you begin to apply for more positions and what have you, and you have to revise and update your resume and customize it again and again and again, templates are not good.
Understood. Thank you for that, Rosie. And Rosie, another question for you that I'll go ahead and pose in a more generalized fashion. For folks that have been employed at the same place for a substantial amount of time, how would you suggest they list that on their resume? Because you had mentioned including the last 2 or 3 locations that you worked at. How would you suggest handling that?
Okay, say for example, if you've been at one job, say for 10 years, and say that over the 10 years, you've gotten promoted, okay? So say if I started with ABC Company in say 2010, and I started as a supervisor from 2010 to 2015, my title was supervisor. So I'm going to list all the things that I did as a supervisor, list my accomplishment. And then say in 2016, I got promoted to manager. Then I can list all those things that I did as a manager. So you can show how you progress over the years with that one job.
Excellent. Thank you for that information, Rosie. And Rosie, another question I received here in the chat is how do we compose a resume when we're trying to move into a new field of work that's different from our prior work experience?
Excellent, excellent. Good question. I get that one too quite a bit. Now, what you have to do in a situation like that, you usually have to use a focus on your transferable skills. I don't care what job you have had in the past. You have transferable skills that you could transfer to a new field that you've never worked in. So in a situation like that, you want to focus on your transferable skills. I did a resume about a week ago for a gentleman. He was in football. He was a football coach. And he said, I don't want to be a football coach anymore. I don't like this. I want to go into truck driving. Well, now what does football have to do with truck driving? Nothing, right? Okay. So what did I suggest that he do? Oh, so look at your skills. Let's look at the job that you want to apply for. What transferable skills do you have in this job, the old job as a football player, a football coach, that you can transfer to truck driving? Well, being a coach, you had to be organized, you have to strategize, you have to know something about logistics, you have to know something about planning, dealing with people. Well, as a truck driver, same thing. Even as a coach, you have to transport your players from point A to point B. So you're driving. What do I do as a truck driver? I'm transporting products. I'm transporting freight from point A to point B. So what you want to do is focus on those transferable skills that you could transfer to that new industry.
Great information. Thank you for that, Rosie. And Rosie, another question that I think I'll go ahead and kind of frame in a general sense. This individual asks a question about including dates of when they got their diploma, especially if they are, older folks. Would you suggest they include that or no?
No. If your diploma, your degree is more than 10 years old, you don't need the date. Like, for example, I don't mind telling you, I graduated in the 80s. So no, I'm not going to put that date there. It's going to age me. Same with high school. If you graduated from high school more than 10 years ago, you don't need to put that there. So if it was within the last 10 years, you could put the date. Beyond that, I wouldn't put the date there.
Awesome. Thank you for that. The next question that we did receive, Rosie, this individual asks, do we need to tailor our resume to each position that we're applying to, or will a general standard resume cover it?
No, I would never suggest using a cookie cutter, one size fit all general resume. You want to customize it to a particular job. So keep in mind that each employer is requesting specific things, right? So what you want to do is look at that job description and ask yourself, okay, what in this job description applies to me? What are some of these things that I can do? You want to pull those things out and put them in your resume. So no, I never suggest a general resume. Always customize it.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Rosie. And Rosie, another question that I received here in the chat, this individual asks, do you have to include your phone number? When I did this, I started to receive spam calls. Would you suggest folks still include their phone number?
Yes, because for the most part, the employer is going to either call you or the employer is going to email you. So I still suggest using your phone or your cell phone number. You don't have to, sometimes customers want to put the home number, cell number #1, cell number #2. I don't recommend that. Just put one phone number, the number that I can reach you on. And if it happens to be the home number or the land number, use that one. If it happens to be the cell number, that's the one you put on. But yes, just put your phone number there.
Excellent. Thank you, Rosie. And Rosie, I did receive another good question here in the chat. This individual asks, should folks include prior employment that they were terminated or fired from, or how would you suggest they handle that?
Oh, okay, well, even if you were fired from the job, well, number one, the employer cannot ask you that. That's number one. So if I worked for ABC company for 5 years and I got terminated, I'm still going to put that there, because if I don't, now I have a big gap there. And the fact that I have a gap there, that could get me eliminated. So I'm still going to put that employer there, even if I was terminated. And
Awesome.
they can, once again, they cannot ask you, Rosie, did you get fired? Why did you get fired? They cannot ask you that.
Great information. Thank you for that, Rosie. And Rosie, kind of circling back to the education piece that we talked about earlier. Somebody had a good question here. They said some job sites will not let you move forward without including the year you received your diploma. Is there any way we can get around this? I don't know if there's any information you might be able to share with folks regarding that.
Well, I do see that a lot. When you're applying online, yeah, and they want more detail, more information. And if it won't let you go to the next screen, of course you have to put it in. That's the application, but I'm not going to put it on my resume.
Understood. Thank you for that, Rosie. And another question, kind of receiving the regarding, the termination piece. What if it's in the application about getting fired? So, if the employer asks that question specifically, how would you suggest folks, approach that?
Well, you can indicate that, you would provide more detail upon a one-on-one interview. So you still don't have to address it.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Rosie. And we have reached 11 o'clock on the dot. So with that, unfortunately, we will have to close the Q&A for this session specifically. Rosie, I do have a general question for you before we move on to our next presenter. If folks have any additional questions they want to ask you or follow up on, what would be the best way to get those questions answered regarding what you covered here today?
Okay, what they can do is they can feel free to email me. My email address is rosie.carter@ees4jobs.com. And they can feel free to email. I do check my email all day long, so I will get right back to you with your answers.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your presentation and your time today, Rosie.
Thank you.
A lot of great information that was covered here today.
And thank you, everybody. I really appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Rosie. And so with the conclusion of Rosie's presentation, we now will move to the second portion of our event here today. And that will be covering just some basic interviewing skills. I do believe Julie with Richard Daly College will be covering this portion of the webinar. Julie, are you available to present?
Yes, I am.
Fantastic. Give me one moment here. I'll stop my screen share and you can go ahead and begin when you're ready.
Hello, everyone. My name is Julie McCarthy, and I'm the Director of Career Services at Daly College. Daly shares a space with Building 100, so we're kind of neighbors, and we're very friendly neighbors. I'm going to talk about preparing for interviews and also giving making a great impression during an interview. Some of the time, I'm going to encourage people to answer questions. So I believe people have the ability to unmute themselves. Real quick, here's what I'm going to go over, and then we'll jump right into it. I'm going to talk about the technical aspects of interviewing on Zoom or another virtual platform. So we'll go through all of that, and I'll give you guys an opportunity to test some things out. The other topics that I'm going to talk about are really the same for a virtual interview or for an in-person interview. So we'll talk about your appearance, what you wear, how you behave on the interview. I'm just glancing at some notes. Talking about yourself, which is an art. We're also going to talk about what you're going to do before your interview so you're prepared. Then the questions that you're likely to be asked and appropriate ways to answer those questions, and then how you can follow up on an interview. I really like interaction. I'm not great about reading the chat when I'm presenting, but definitely if you do want to speak, use the raise your hand button. And I do love the reaction buttons. So for the first part, and this is the technology preparation, and as I look away from you guys, I'm looking off screen at my notes. So just wanted to give you a heads up on that. One of the first things to do is to check your sound. To mute and unmute yourself, get very comfortable doing it. Now I'm going to do a little demonstration of what it's like when you don't realize mute is on and you keep talking. So that's a very common thing. Just get used to muting, unmuting so that doesn't happen to you. Also, you do want to take a look at the way you appear on your screen. I'm on a laptop and I'm going to do a little demonstration of what happens when I move my screen. So I would recommend that you practice at home Zooming with yourself. You can do that. You just start a meeting and look at the way you appear and kind of see where you appear. Also kind of see, I happen to like to stand when I'm on Zoom so I don't sit all day long. What happens when you stand? What happens when you sit? What happens when you move the screen real close to yourself? I've experimented enough to know I'm not real fond of the way I appear when I'm too close to the screen. I think it's a little bit unnerving. If anyone wants to play with that now, that would be a great thing to do. I also, when I Zoom, I do this because I like the view. I have the window so it's kind of opposite my screen. I'm going to do a little demonstration and bear with me when I move the screen so you can see what happens when the window is behind me. Notice how I seem all faded out. So it's kind of the same thing as when you take a picture. You don't want to have the light right behind you. Really good thing to test out on your own. Also, I noticed people were using the chat feature, great thing to do. When I'm in any kind of a Zoom meeting and I'm using chat, I tend to mute myself so people don't hear me typing. It's a good thing to remember. I see someone is entering and I'm going to admit them. Some other things that you can do. Right now, as you can see, I'm using a fake background and I'm using this to seem a little bit more professional. But typically when I Zoom, and I'm going to turn off my fake background. I Zoom from my kitchen, which is presentable and fine. But if I were going into an interview, I probably would use a fake background. Now I know because I looked at the notes, you all who participated in the workshop on creating a Zoom background learned how to do that. So I would encourage you, play with creating an appropriate background. When I'm just having some fun, sometimes I like to use a pretty background, and I have a lot. I've played with this feature quite a bit, but they're not appropriate for an interview situation. Now, there are some people who are not able to use fake backgrounds. When they do, they kind of fade in and out. I don't know if you've ever been on a Zoom with someone where that's happening, and that tends to be a technology issue. I think it has to do with how old your computer is and the screen. You may be one of those people who has to or can't use a fake background because they fade out. So if that's you, just make sure the background behind you is appropriate. And sometimes you want people to see your background. When we all went remote, I was doing some work with one of my former bosses who's become a very good friend. His name is Walt, and he's kind of semi-retired. Now he does very high-end consulting. And so he was going to be Zooming and pitching himself to do very high-end, well-paid consulting. He didn't want to use a fake background. So he was Zooming from his dining room because he liked the lighting, but he wanted people to see his extensive library. So he literally reconfigured his dining room for a time, and he had a lot of expensive hardbound books behind him so people could see that. Someone gallery note, I don't know if you want to talk, which is fine, but if you don't, can you mute yourself? Okay. So you really want to think about the industry you're entering and what you want people to think about you. Another real important thing is your screen name. So when I'm glancing, I'm seeing most people who are using their computer to Zoom right now have their full name. That's awesome. If you're using your phone, you have your phone number. One of the things that's really important to getting an interview, getting a job, getting everything in life is having people remember you. And they're more apt to remember you if they hear and see your name a lot. So I would encourage everyone to use their first and last name when they Zoom. Now, sometimes people have nicknames. I recommend use the same name that appears on your resume. I have a colleague who goes by Sonny, but his real official first name is Saul, and that's the name that's on his resume. And if you were interviewing, he would have his first name, Saul, on his resume and also on Zoom. But as soon as he gets comfortable, people all call him Sonny, but just make that choice for yourself. Now, I'm not sure if people know how to change their screen name, so I'm going to do a little demonstration. If you put your cursor onto your face on your screen and you click on the dots, you can rename yourself. And so I'll do a quick silly name. Daisy is not my nickname. I just happen to like daisies. But you don't want to use a silly name, so you can play with it now if you have a chance. Kind of keeps you engaged if you're doing stuff while I'm talking. So I would encourage you play with renaming yourself, but definitely use first and last name that appear. And I'm going to take 1 minute. On your resume, questions or comments about that? So I'm going to move on a little bit to appearance, and I want to kind of talk about that. So immediately people think, well, you want to look good on your interview. I would also encourage you to think about the industry that you want to work in. True story, my good friend Donna's husband is the breadwinner. The day Donna got married, she stopped working for various reasons, raised their kids, and still is the person who does all the favors in the family. Her husband, Larry, is an IT professional, and he has had very high-level positions. Some years ago, there was downsizing at the organization that Larry worked for, and he and a number of other people other positions were eliminated. And it was a real shock because Larry is hardworking, pleasant, efficient. He's just the person that everyone wants to work with. And he had put in probably 60 hours a week for a number of years. So Larry did that thing that I like to call the Al Gore beard thing. And that is, if people remember when Al Gore was not elected or was not able to assume the office of presidency, he grew a beard and he looked kind of like a camping kind of a guy. Well, Larry did the same. Larry works in a very conventional industry. And so Larry, but he was like, I am just furious. I have done corporate America my whole life, and I'm just sick of it. I don't think the beard was what was preventing Larry from getting a job, but he did have some trouble initially finding a job. So Donna asked me to sit down with her husband. We met at a Starbucks, and I've known Larry for 20 plus years. And one of the many things that we talked about was his beard. And I said, it's not a deal breaker, but it can inhibit you. You want to look kind of like the industry that you're going into. So we talked about many things, and I'll share some of the things about the conversation with you as we talk, but he did shave his beard. Now, a real true story about me. Prior to coming to city colleges, I worked in the art education sector for many, many years. In the art education sector, people can and should look kind of creative. So you're seeing me now, and I'm sure this is hard for you to picture, but when I worked in the art education world, I had long black curly hair. It was like all over the place. And I used to wear artistic clothing and big earrings and a lot more makeup. When I switched and I went into the education world, I wanted to look more like the education world. So I did cut my hair and I changed many things because I wanted to look like the industry that I was going into. I'm not saying that this is the way it should be, but I'm saying that this can be something that helps you a lot. So I would give thought. Now, if you're going into any creative, if you're going into the world of architecture, drama, dance, filmmaking, screenwriting, graphic design, etc., then you're kind of free to look the way that you want to look. But if you're thinking about corporate America, it can be helpful to look a little bit more like corporate America. Also, during your interview, you want to give some thought to what you're wearing. I generally recommend that everyone, men and women, wear a shirt with a collar because you always look kind of like you're a professional going to an office. If you're not wearing a shirt with a collar, there can be all kinds of questions and things that you don't want to have to deal with. Shirt with a collar is a safe bet. Light blue, white, beige, kind of a neutral shade is often really helpful. And everybody keep the jewelry kind of small so it's not taking a lot of focus. You want to look like you're going to an office, unless of course you work in the creative world and then you have a little bit more freedom. But think about how you appear on a frame to somebody who's considering inviting you in for an interview for an accountant position or whatever industry you're thinking about. With your interview, I would recommend you try out whatever you're planning to wear the day before. There are all kinds of surprises in life. You accidentally shrunk your shirt, you didn't remember it, things are wrinkled, you didn't realize you had ketchup, etc. So you just want to get that out of the way the day before your interview. Questions or comments about that? Glancing at the chat, didn't see anything. So no comments about that.
Hi, Julie, this is Dana. We did receive a question in the chat. This individual asked, how do you create the fake background? Is there any tips, pointers you'd like to share with folks?
Sure. So with some Zoom packages, there'll be preloaded some fake backgrounds. The way you go and find out about fake backgrounds is you look at the bottom of your screen. Next to stop video, there is an up arrow, and if you click it and then you click on choose virtual background, you can check to see if there are any in there. If there are any, test them out, see if you like them. I didn't save any of the fake backgrounds that were available to me, but if you have one and you say this works, go with it. If not, you'll see a plus sign, and the plus sign allows you to upload an image. When I created my fake background, some of them are photographs and others were simply documents that myself or an intern created. So if you're creating your own, upload a photograph, could be good, could be a photograph of you, or could be a photograph of an office, could be something that you create. So upload that to your computer. I like to put stuff on my desktop when I want to find it real quickly so I don't have to go into folders. So if you've uploaded the image, go the plus sign, and then you're going to select it and confirm. Are there questions about that?
Looks like we did receive a few additional questions in the chat, Julie, regarding attire and what's appropriate. Do you want me to go ahead and ask those, or do you want
That'd be
to?
great.
Okay, first question was, what about wearing a business style jacket or sweater? And then kind of along with that second part, the next question was, is it good to wear a dress or a pantsuit for women?
So I'll go with the first. So there are variations on the shirt with a collar. And if you wear a sweater and a jacket, or even a sweater that looks kind of like a jacket, that can be absolutely fine. I wouldn't recommend that you wear something sleeveless. If it's really hot for your interview, maybe you're wearing something sleeveless underneath, and briefly during the interview, you put on your jacket. So that would be absolutely fine. Kind of play with the things that you actually own and see if you have anything. And if not, pick up a couple of things. You could pick them up at a resale shop and wash them and iron them, and they'll look great as new, or borrow something. So that's kind of the upper portion. In a virtual interview, people generally can't see your lower body unless you stand up or there's some reason why you move a lot. So I wouldn't say that a dress is necessary. If you are, but I would be aware that sometimes things shift. So I wouldn't recommend that you wear pajama bottoms or shorts. There could be some reason unexpectedly you stand up and you kind of reveal that the top portion of you is professional and the bottom portion of you looks like you're going to the beach or going to sleep. So I would recommend that you wear something on the bottom that looks professional. In terms of an in-person interview for women, I would say wear what you're comfortable in. And so if you do have skirt suits, or you like to wear a skirt and a jacket, or a dress that looks professional, not a dress that looks like you're going out for the evening, wear that. If you're female and you just don't like to wear dresses and you know that you're going to trip if you wear high heels, I would say wear slacks that look professional. Whatever you do, try to avoid denim, even very nice polished denim. And please don't wear gym shoes. But with everything, there's an exception. If you work in a field like manufacturing, then you may wear much more casual clothing, and you might even be asked to wear steel-toed shoes because they're going to take you on a shop tour. So with everything, it is a little bit company and industry specific. Are there other questions about appearance? So something else that is kind of important during your interview, don't chew gum, don't have any candy in your mouth, don't eat anything. I personally like to drink water, especially when I'm doing a lot of talking. So I'm drinking water. If you're a person who likes to drink soda or something else, I would say probably pour it into a glass if you have the opportunity, so you look a little bit more professional. Try not to eat unless you're diabetic and at certain intervals. And then I would say, excuse me for one moment, I need to eat a cracker or something like that. But I would try not to eat during your interview. Other questions or comments about appearance?
Julie, we did receive a question in the chat. This individual asked, do we have to wear a tie? What situations would that be appropriate for?
That's a good question. And I would say if you're going into upper level management, then a tie is a really good idea. You want to dress for the position that you're applying for. So yes, definitely, if you want to be taken seriously and you're applying to be a director, a VP, a president, etc., then a tie is a great idea. If you're not, and it's something that makes you feel more professional, in many instances, I would say, sure, it can't hurt, but it's not required. Questions, comments about that? Another kind of tip about interviews, sometimes people have a limited wardrobe of interview outfits, and I can say, this isn't what I wore for my interview, but when I was interviewing, I dressed a little bit more professional, and I'm not a big fan of professional clothes. So I knew that in some instances, there'd be multiple interviews by the same company. So I literally took a picture of the outfit so I didn't accidentally wear the same thing twice. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it is good to kind of not look like you only have one outfit. Questions, comments about that?
Julie, we did receive another good question in the chat. There's one that I do receive on my events quite frequently. What about face piercings and tattoos? What do you suggest as far as protocol for that?
So again, this is industry specific. In some industries, that would not be an issue. So if you're going to a creative field, probably that's not going to be a big issue. If you're going into a field that tends to be more conventional, I'd recommend that you take the piercings out and you do your best not to show a lot of your tattoos. When you do get your job, again, when I first interviewed at city colleges, I dressed very corporate. And for the first couple of days, I continued to dress very corporate. Then I looked around to see what everybody else was wearing. And I said, oh, okay, I'm actually standing out because other people don't dress this corporate. So I wore kind of my kind of clothes. The same thing goes for a lot of things. If you get into a job and you see, hey, lots of people, lots of men have piercings and women have multiple piercings, and that's part of the culture here, okay. But I will caution you with that. If your goal is to move into management and you do have piercings or tattoos, I would take a look and see, what do the managers tend to look like? Do they show their piercings and tattoos? So in life, we make a lot of choices, and you wouldn't want something like that to keep you from getting the position that you want. Questions or comments about that? So not seeing any, I'm going to move on. So in your virtual interview, and certainly when you're in person, you want to look at the people that you're speaking to. If you're shy, sometimes you need to practice a bit, but the interview is kind of a time when you want to be on. So sometimes you have to kind of psych yourself up for, I'm smiling, I'm looking straight ahead. If you're in an interview and there are multiple people, you want to try, even though it's on a screen, to look at and talk to everybody on the screen. It's always tempting, even for someone who's not shy, to kind of respond to the person who seems the nicest and to like us the most. But I would encourage you, everyone who's part of the interview panel is going to weigh in on whether or not to hire you. So I would make an effort to kind of look at everyone, even if it's on your screen, acknowledge everybody and be comfortable. And again, you can practice in front of the mirror and you can practice Zooming with yourself. And you can kind of see, what does I look like when I look this way? Some people, and I have a colleague who Zooms from a desktop, and when he's Zooming, his head is always turned. So he's always at a strange angle. Practice in advance to see, do I look like I'm looking at everyone? So this is just a practice kind of thing. Also, in terms of the way you behave, and this is a hard one for me, I encourage you to turn off your phone during your interview, both Zoom and in person. We all like our phones. That's where our clocks are. I'm going to do a little demonstration in a moment, but turn off your phones if you get a phone call or a text that can kind of say, hey, I'm not really being present. Now for me, because my phone really is my clock and I don't even have a watch at this point, I do have a little clock that I have off screen that I hope everybody can see, that when I'm in a situation where I'm not looking at my phone, I look at so I know, how much time has passed? When do I need to move on? So think about those things in advance. Body language is a really big deal. I have noticed from Zooming with myself quite a bit that I tend to like to sit like this. That's kind of comfortable for me. But if I had an interview, I would practice kind of rolling back my shoulders, taking a deep breath, and maintaining my posture. As I mentioned, I also do like to sometimes sit and sometimes stand. For the interview, pick so you're not adjusting. Here's me doing an adjustment. You all saw that. That isn't really a great thing to do, could be unavoidable. So it could be that you just have to stretch your legs, do it, be unobtrusive, don't spend a lot of time talking about it, but try to avoid doing it. Another thing that sometimes I have to remember is not to interrupt people. On Zoom, if you interrupt somebody, suddenly they don't have the capacity to talk because Zoom follows the microphone. So I would be very cautious. Maybe somebody said something wrong, like they mispronounced your name. The natural inclination is to say, no, it isn't July, it's Julie. But wait for an opportune moment and say, hi, I just wanted to explain my name is pronounced Julie. Do it with a smile, don't seem scoldy, kind of let it go till you have an opportunity. Questions, comments about that?
Julie, we did receive a question in the chat. This individual asks, any tips for looking at the interviewer instead of your own image? Is it obvious if you're not looking at the other person?
So again, practice. And I'm going to see, I'm playing with my screen now. Yes. So right now, everyone is on what's called gallery view. And that means because I'm not using the screen feature, unless you've adjusted your computer, everyone appears. So it looks like there's, I don't know, I'm trying to do the math, which I'm bad at, 20 people on the screen right now. If you look at the top of your screen and you click on view, try clicking on speaker, everybody. When you do that, then you see the person who's talking. Now, when someone new talks, they become the speaker, but that can be helpful so that you are looking at the people who are talking. When you're the speaker, you will see yourself. It's very common, me too, to get real obsessed with the way you look and very critical. Try to let that go. I will show you another quick feature that's kind of a fun feature, and it's called Touch Up My Appearance. I don't know how many people have found this, but again, go to, and you can definitely play with the buttons on your computer. Go to the button at the bottom of the screen next to Stop Share, and go to video and click on the up arrow and go to video settings. You see my video, and I have clicked Touch Up My Appearance and adjust for low light. I'm not going to uncheck that, but if I did, probably you would say, Julie's skin is a little bit more shiny than I realized, and some other things. So play with all that, but remember, you're your worst critic. And so it's very easy to stare at yourself and kind of say, oh, I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that. So the other person is probably not thinking those things, but do kind of get used to saying, I'm going to see some things I don't like about myself and I'm going to let it go. Questions, comments about that?
Looks like we did receive a question in the chat. This individual asks, is it good to smile in an interview, Julie?
Yes, it is very good. So you want to smile at appropriate times and you don't want to seem too phony. So if you're fake smiling, people will know it immediately. But I would kind of, when it's natural to smile, or when you're saying, hello, my name is Julie McCarthy, or when there's an appropriate time to smile, try to do that. For some people, that can be a stretch. Again, practice a little bit at home. I had a colleague who was fantastic on the phone. He always talks about smiles and dials. And what he said is, even on the phone, I smile, but people can't see my face because it will come off a little more pleasant when I'm smiling. So I would practice with that a bit. And practice, if you're not making eye contact, practice doing that. Other questions or comments?
Regarding interruption, Julie, this individual asked, just in case we interrupt, how do we handle that situation? Would it be okay if we say, sorry to interrupt, and then let them speak, or what would you suggest?
I would only interrupt if it's something that you need to address right now. And if so, I would say, I'm really sorry, but I wanted to let you know blank. So let's say you realize that they're interviewing you for the wrong position. So you've applied for the accountant position and you realize that they're interviewing for the HR position. I wouldn't let that go too long. I'd say, I'm sorry to interrupt, but it seems to me that you believe I applied for the HR position when in reality I applied for the accountant position. Is that something that you're aware of? So that would be a good time that you want to clear it up right now. But in most cases, I would kind of wait until you have an opportunity to type something into the chat. Questions or comments about that?
Another question that I received, Julie, is a good one. And if I'm interpreting it correctly, I think what this individual asking is can I post a picture of myself during a Zoom interview? I'm assuming what they're getting at is in lieu of having themselves on camera, what if they just have a picture of themselves?
I would strongly recommend that you be on camera.
Be quiet.
Julie, I think you're on mute.
Oh, I don't even know how I did that. I would strongly recommend that you are live on camera. If there's some reason that's impossible, then yes, use a picture of yourself. I'm going to stop video and show the picture I use. It's not the best, but it's the one that I have. So if you're going to use a picture of yourself, I'd recommend that you're smiling, you look professional, and it's something that you're comfortable with and still looks like you. And when I say that, sometimes people have pictures that were taken many years ago. I saw the chat earlier questions when people ask about a photo on LinkedIn, and one of the reasons is that people know who. I'm looking for an old friend. Her name is Sally, and she has a common last name. And so I want to reach out to her to talk to her about something. So one of the things that's really helpful with a picture on LinkedIn is I'll know immediately which Sally is my friend. Now, if your appearance has changed a lot, like if I still had long black curly hair and big earrings, someone who knows me now might not recognize me. So on LinkedIn, and also if you are going to use a photo of yourself, I'd recommend the photo be pretty current. Questions or comments about that?
It looks like we did get another question here, and I think this has to do more with audio or technical issues. This individual asks, what if you're having a problem with your mic on your system? How do you suggest addressing that?
I would type into the chat, I'm very sorry, but I'm having trouble with my audio today. Would it be okay for me to respond to your questions in the chat, or would you prefer to reschedule? So I would give that option. Questions, comments about that? Now, I did hear someone's dog bark in the background. That can happen. So I will say when we all went, and I keep looking at my clock because there's a lot more that I want to talk to you about, so I'll try to wrap this part up. But when we first went remote, my dog was not used to having me home all the time. And so she barked. And it was very awkward, especially when I was in meetings with kind of upper level management at city colleges. And so, and I knew if I put her into a room, she would bark even more loudly. So pet owners, I bought a Kong, which is a little rubber thing that's hollow inside. You put peanut butter in it. So I put peanut butter in the Kong, I froze it. And when I got onto a meeting where I knew it would reflect badly on me if the dog barked, I got out the Kong and I kept her happy with that. So if you're a pet owner or you have children, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. So if you're Zooming from home and you've got kids, I'm not a huge fan of screen time, but during your interview, maybe you let your kids watch whatever it is they really want to watch that you kind of approve of. but give that some thought. Questions, comments? I do have a new cat. I'm looking to see where she is. And when she first came to my home, she was all lovey-dovey, as someone said, kind of settling in and being sure that I wasn't going to give her up. And so I did allow her to come up. You might have seen her, Isa and other people on here, come up to my desk and cross the screen. If I were in a very important meeting or an interview, I would have put the new cat away, even as sad as that would have been. But I wouldn't have wanted the cat to make me appear less present and less professional. Questions, comments about that? So hearing none, I'm going to move on, and I'm going to talk for a minute about an elevator speech. I'd hope to have you all do one, but looking at the time, we might not have the opportunity to. So an elevator speech is a speech that you give about yourself that presents yourself as a professional when you only have 30 seconds. Reason it's called an elevator speech is that's about the amount of time that you have on an elevator. An elevator speech is kind of a handy thing to always have kind of mentally in your head because you never know when you're going to meet someone important. It's also a very good speech to kind of have in your head so that during an interview, when it says, tell me about yourself, you kind of have kind of a preset idea of what to talk about. So I am going to do a screen share now. And I'm going to show you the document that I share with students when I ask them to write an elevator speech. Hello, my name is Julie McCarthy. I'm a student at Richard J. Daley College. I'm studying biology as I'm planning to become a nurse. I work at Costco. I've been there for 5 years and I'm behind the pharmacy counter. I really like my job because I have the opportunity to interact with our customers and also with the physicians who call in orders. And a lot of what I'm dealing with really relates to my future job as a nurse. I'm interested in becoming a neonatal nurse. I really enjoy working with families, and I know what an important period it is in a family's life when a baby comes into this world. So those are the questions that you kind of want to be prepared to answer. When you're asked to talk about yourself, you don't want to get real personal. So I've shared a lot with you personally. I have a dog and a cat. Totally not appropriate to share in an interview or when you meet someone and you're talking about yourself. Keep it all positive. For people who have children, I'd recommend you don't talk about your children at all. Not that they should, but people always think, 6-month-old, I wonder if he or she will be able to get to work on the mornings when the baby was up all night with colic. So I would recommend that when you talk about yourself, it's in the context of you as a student, if you are a student, and as a professional, and you keep it all positive. If you're not working, don't say I'm not working. I might say I'm looking for a new opportunity right now. I'm investing a lot of energy in a job search, but avoid anything that sounds negative. So you do want to think about how you're going to present yourself on your job interview, or if you happen to meet someone. Life is full of serendipity. Serendipity means funny things happen, and you could run into someone and bada boom, they know of a position, you let them know in a very subtle way, hey, this is exactly the kind of opportunity that I'm prepared for and interested in, and all of a sudden you're asked to apply for a position. So I strongly encourage you to work on this at home and be prepared in your interview to use this information when you talk about yourself. But also sometimes in life, you sit next to the right person on the bus or the train, you strike up a conversation and a match is made. I see something, is there questions or comments?
Julie, just a quick question. We're getting a lot of folks in the chat asking about interference. I don't know if you have something on in the background possibly that is, again, interfering with your ability to speak or not. I've checked here just to double check to make sure everyone else is muted. I believe that's the case. So I don't know. Just wanted you to be aware of that.
It could be they're putting in a new dog run and some other things in my in the garden right next to my building. So
Okay.
you may be hearing construction.
Okay.
Was there anything anyone missed because of the interference?
Can you say that again, Julie? Sorry.
So they are doing some construction in the garden next to my building. So you may be hearing some sounds related to that.
Okay, gotcha.
I can turn off my video, which sometimes the video component does sometimes create some issues. So perhaps that'll make things better. I do hear the interference now that people are mentioning it. But I want to talk now, we've got about 15 minutes, so I want to focus on two things: preparing for the interview and then answering the questions. One of the things that I strongly recommend before your interview is you do some research on the company that you're going to apply to work for. Now that just about every company has a website, it's really easy. So I'm going to do another screen share. And I'm going to go to the internet, and I'm going to go to a company that actually is hiring right now. So it's S&C Electric. They are hiring for a number of manufacturing positions, and it really is a great company to work for. So if you're looking for manufacturing opportunities, go there, look at this in addition to the other opportunities you're going to learn about in these next couple of days. So when you Google the company, you can go to the company's website and you can get a lot of information about the company. Kind of go through what they say about themselves, what they do. You want to know what kinds of products they manufacture. If they talk about things like corporate responsibility, their equipment, etc., you want to be able to demonstrate in the interview that you did your homework and that you're really excited about this company. There are things about the company that really connect to your personal interests and work style. So I'm going to stop share, but say with whatever company that you're applying to work for, definitely go to their website, read what they say about themselves. Also, and I'll talk later about this, towards the end of the interview, it's very likely will ask you if you have any questions. You don't want to ask a question that's really obvious, that demonstrates that you didn't go to their website. So you do want to go to their website, and so you can say, I noticed that you introduced a new product line in 2018. How is that going? Or ask questions that demonstrate you've done your homework because you're interested in that position and you're going to ask a thoughtful question. Another thing that can be extremely helpful is reread the job post. So sometimes people apply for a position, don't look at the job post anymore. They get into the job interview and they ask obvious questions about the position, or they're not prepared to talk about why they're a good fit for the position. So reread the job post and be prepared to say, I see that you need someone who's familiar with CNC, CAD, and XYZ. You want to say, I took a class in this, I had an apprenticeship, and this is what I did. But reread the job description so you can connect the dots between what you've done, what you've learned in school or in other places, and the responsibilities of that particular position. During your interview, try to stay positive. So you may be asked questions like, why did you leave your previous position? And the real truth might be, I hated my boss. Don't say that. You will not be offered the position. So you want to say something like, I had an opportunity to take on some new responsibilities. I found an opportunity that was more in line with what I'd studied. You want to say something truthy, meaning not complete lie, but again, something positive. You may be asked questions like, why are you a good fit for the position? You want to think through your answers to that kind of a question. Sometimes you'll be asked what's called a behavioral question, and that is they ask you how you'd respond in a certain situation, or they'll ask you questions like, talk about a time when you miscommunicated something and how you address that and resolve the situation. If you're asked a question and you just don't know how to answer it, kind of say, that's a great question. I'd like to think about that for a minute. Stop, give yourself some breathing space, but anticipate the kinds of questions that you're going to be asked and think about some ways you're going to address them. Why are you interested in the position? Why should I hire you? What is your management style? How would other people describe you? So think through those kinds of questions. Now, as I mentioned, you will be asked if you have any questions, and there are questions that we all really have and want answers to. What is the salary? How often do I get paid? Can I wear jeans to work? How much vacation? Those are all the questions that you can't ask on the first interview. It's really hard, but you need to save those questions till you're offered the position. So during the first interview, you are selling yourself. At the point when they're ready to offer you the position, then you get into the negotiation phase. Now, I would caution you, if you really want the position, there might be some things you budge on. So you might ask something like, how much vacation time do I get during the first year? And you might have been used to 3 weeks because you worked at the same company for a long time. But as a new hire, you're only going to get 1 week. You could kind of say, oh, interesting. Does vacation time increase with each year that someone works for the company? But if you want that position, don't negotiate away from what you really want. Now, one of the questions that you may be asked, not one of my favorite, is what are your salary requirements? With that, I recommend that you kind of give a range. And so I would do a little bit of internet research to see what is a common salary for that position. And then I would think to yourself, what would I be willing to take this position for? And what is the most that I might possibly be offered? And I would kind of say, my range is $17 to $22 an hour. They may meet you in the middle and say, okay, we're prepared to offer you $20 an hour. They may say, you know, we're only permitted to offer $17. Now, if their budget is firm, they really can't go up. So you may have to decide, do I really want this? So I would encourage you really think about your answer to that. Now, sometimes you might be offered a position and it's not the position you really want. I had a student a couple of years ago who was offered a position from a company, but it wasn't the position he really wanted. There was another company he really, really wanted to work for. So he didn't want to say no to company A. What he said to company A is, my wife is out of the country. I always consult with her before I make any decisions that affect my family. Can I get back to you on Monday? She'll be back mid-afternoon on Monday. Company said, sure. So he contacted company B. He said, I received an offer. I need to know whether you are going to offer me a position because I will take that other position. Company B did offer him a position. So he took the position with company B and he simply said to company A, You know, I'm really grateful for this opportunity. I was offered a position that's a better opportunity for my family. So I'm going to take that position, but I really appreciate this offer. And I hope that our paths cross again. He was uber professional and polite because you never know when you're going to run into people in the future. So he did want to not say, I got a better offer. He didn't want to give kind of a smart response. He wanted to give a diplomatic response. So I would think that through a bit. So think through the kinds of things that might happen. A question that no one likes is strengths and weaknesses. I would give some thought to that in advance. With your weaknesses, this is not time to confess everything that you're bad at. It's time to think, what are some things that are not going to mean that I can't perform my job duties and that I have a coping mechanism? So one of my real weaknesses in life is I'm a little I'm using the word wrong. I'm very bad at finding my way from one location to the next. And so what I do truly is I will MapQuest old school directions to a place that I haven't been to before and email the results to myself. And then I will do navigation on my phone so that for sure I can get to my destination. If my navigation goes out, then I can pull up the directions on my email. But that is something I'm truly terrible at, but I have a coping mechanism. I've had students who are a little bit situationally shy, and so they might say, I get shy in certain situations like interviews. I kind of just feel on the spot. When I'm in an actual job situation, I warm up and I get comfortable to everyone. But during an interview, it really is a stretch for me to present myself in a confident, friendly manner. But that is how I am in reality. So give some thought to some ways to answer that. For your strengths, and I know Rosie was talking about the positions that you're applying for, think about strengths that are relevant to the position that you're applying for. So if you're transitioning, maybe you worked in the IT field and now you're going into social work. You don't want to talk about your IT strengths. You want to talk about your interpersonal skills. So really give some thought to what are my strengths that would make me a good candidate. I'm watching the clock and I'm going to quickly talk about following up on the interview. So hopefully at the end of the interviewers will say something like, very nice meeting you. Thank you for your time. We'll be making decisions and getting back to the final candidates within a week's time. Sometimes people are not very experienced about giving interviews. And I've had students who say, it was just kind of weird. They just quit talking. So I'd encourage you, if it gets a little weird, but you have a sense nobody's talking, now's a good time to say, I really appreciate you taking the time to meet with me. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed learning about XYZ company. What are the next steps in your hiring process? Now they may get real awkward and be like, well, what? So then you say, oh, okay, no worries. But they may kind of explain. After your interview is over, I would very quickly send an email thank you to everyone who is part of the interview. In the subject line, write the word thank you or thank you for interviewing me for the position of pastry chef. And then dear, and then the names of everyone who was part of the interview. Thank you very much for taking the time to meet with me. I really appreciate your making time for this interview. I enjoyed learning about XYZ Bakery. I think I'd be a good fit for the position and I hope to have the opportunity to join your team. So keep it brief. If you only know the email address for maybe one person, the person who set up the interview, send the email to that person, but address it to everyone who is part of the interview and say, dear Tom, Mary, and Steve, thank you, etc. If during your interview, one person introduces themselves as Mr. Smith and the other person introduces herself as Annie, I would be professional, and I would address the email to Mr. and Ms. Everybody. It's awkward to have a dear Mr. Smith and Annie. So kind of err on the side of being very professional. Now I'm going to ask quickly if there are any questions, and I want to try taking off my video to see if you can hear me still. Are there any questions?
Hi, Julie. We did receive quite a few questions in the chat, but we are kind of bumping up on time here. So I think I can ask a few questions, but I think before I go ahead and pose those to you, what would be the best way folks could get some of the questions that they have answered regarding the information that you covered here today? Can they reach out to you, or how would they go about doing so?
I will put my email address in the chat, and I can hear the interference again, so I'll stop video. I will put my email address into the chat. What are some of the questions?
Yeah, so there was a good question here that I would like to pose to you. Give me one moment here. The question was, is an employer allowed to ask your most recent or current salary?
They are allowed to. I believe there is legislation that hasn't passed to eliminate that question, but currently they are able to ask that.
Thank you for that, Julie. Another good question that I saw in the chat too was, how do you know when you were talking too much when answering a question? Can you talk yourself out of the position?
Yes, and I would encourage you to try to talk kind of slow, because when you slow yourself down, sometimes you're a little bit more mindful and you don't talk as much. So if you do have this thought like, God, I did a lot of talking, I would encourage you the next time it's your time to talk to say, you know, I'm very enthusiastic about this position and just excited to be interviewing with you. I may have overtalked a bit. I apologize for that, but I am excited.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Julie. And Julie, another question that I had for you that comes from the chat that I thought was good as well. This individual asks, how do you obtain all of the names of the people who interviewed you? What would be the protocol you would suggest for that?
So there are multiple ways. When you get a meeting invitation, often you can send the meeting invitation, the emails for everybody who is part of the interview. It can be awkward because you don't know gender or other things. If you know the name of one person, you can address the email to Dear Ms. Carter and interview panel or interview team. So that is a way to get around it.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Julie. And Julie, another question that came in that I thought was good as well was, what is kind of a reasonable time frame in which folks should follow up with their interviewers? How long would you allow as far as lead time is concerned?
So I would send the thank you as soon as possible, but I say that read the email before you send it. I know sometimes I get enthusiastic and I do something real quick and I realize, oh my God, I didn't use spell check or whatever the issue is. So I would try that day or the next day to send the thank you email. But again, read it, don't dash it off so quickly that there's something that you're going to regret later. If you don't hear anything, it doesn't hurt after about 4 days to send a very polite diplomatic, hi, I'm just following up on my application for XYZ position. I'm wondering if you would have any information or any updates. But there comes a time you don't want to stop, it won't help. They could have picked another candidate, their budget might have been cut and they could have eliminated the position. If you don't get a response that time, maybe wait 3 days later, and if you still don't get a response, don't do anything else.
Understood. Thank you for that, Julie. And Julie, I think we have enough time for approximately one more question. I think this is a good one as well. This individual asks, what can a person do that has social anxiety during an interview? Any tips, tricks, pointers you'd like to share with folks?
Sure. I work with all of my students on what I call yoga breathing. I would do this every day so that on the day of your interview, it's something that's used to you. And so what I mean by that is I'm going to So I would try to find 5 minutes a day when you sit really comfortably, you close your eyes and you try not to think about anything. You just focus on your breath. And if you close your eyes on me now, I will not be hurt, but just practice letting thoughts out of your head, listening to your breathing, being really calm. If a thought comes into your head, acknowledge, hey, I'm thinking I'm kind of hungry, but try to let it go and go back to your breathing. If you do this by the end of a week, you will probably start to notice that you're able to calm yourself. The day of your interview, do your yoga breathing before. And if you start to get nervous, think back to how you felt when you were doing your yoga breathing. I'm calm, I'm letting the thoughts out of my head, I'm focusing on my breathing, and I'm just going to focus on the questions I'm answering right now. So I would practice that a lot. I would practice also, if you can, giving your elevator speech to friends and family who are not critical. So we all have that relative who always wants to tell you that they liked you better before you cut your hair. Don't go to that person. But someone who's loving and you say, I know this is kind of silly, but can I give my elevator speech to you? Get used to saying the words out loud to another person and just kind of ease into it. Also, it doesn't hurt to interview for some positions you don't really want. It's really good practice. So maybe there is some store, some restaurant that's always hiring, interview with them. Practice what is it like, smiling, being natural, calming yourself. If they offer you the position, you might say, thank you very much. I was offered another position that's a better fit for my skill set, but I really appreciate the offer. But practice. And then my closing words are fake it till you make it. So even if it is you faking being calm, faking being confident, after a while you'll get comfortable and you'll remember, oh, this is me turning on my interviewing manner. Any last comments or questions?
I think with that, Julie, we'll go ahead and wrap up this session here. Of course, thank you so much for your time today. Lots of wonderful information that was covered and a lot of great answers to a lot of great questions in the chat as well. I just want to reiterate, Julie has added her email address into the chat. So if there are any additional questions that you'd like to ask, or perhaps unfortunately, maybe your question didn't get asked, if you want to go ahead and follow up directly with her, she has provided that into the chat. Julie, thank you so much again.
Thank you and good luck, everybody.
Thank you. Our next presenter will be Nidia with One Stop Operator Team. Nidia, are you available to present?
Yeah, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you, Julie, for that amazing presentation, and Rosie as well. So happy to be here with you all today. So welcome to the American Job Center Network Orientation. We are happy to have you join us today so that you can learn more about the resources we offer to support you in your career, life, and more. So what brings you here? Maybe you're looking for help searching for a job, or maybe you're here to find out more about the WEOF program. Or maybe someone told you about the American Job Center and you just want to learn more about the network. Okay, so no matter what brought you here today, we are happy you made it, and we look forward to sharing more about how we can support you in your career goals and beyond. In this brief presentation, we will answer a few questions. First, what is the American Job Center Network? As you will learn, we will help with jobs, but also a whole lot more. We will also discuss how the American Job Center Network and its resources help you. Finally, we'll talk about next steps and how you can get started. So let's dive in. The American Job Center is a local hub for all your support needs. There's you, and through our, Sorry about that. And as we learned in lesson 101 today, make sure that your phone is always muted. And this is a perfect example on why that shouldn't happen. But as I was saying, the American Job Center is a local hub for all your job support needs. So there's you. And through our network of partners, you can connect to a variety of resources to help you get where you want to go. So let's find out more about the free services we offer and how we can support you. The American Job Center Network, you can get support in so many things. You can do things like send an application or print a resume, get tailored one-on-one services from a job coach, learn more about job training options, including free ones, brush up on your reading, writing, math skills, or study for the high school equivalency test. You can also find free English classes. You can get additional help with job support if you are an older adult or younger person. You can also receive assistance to file for unemployment. You can receive assistance if you have a disability, you are a veteran, you were formerly incarcerated, you were laid off, you lost your job due to foreign trade. You can also get help with important services like paying for certain jobs, accessing help with getting food, applying for SNAP benefits, as well as for applying for TANF or finding a place to live. So let's look more closely at the American Job Center. Our American Job Centers have two main parts. One is the resources rooms that have free services available to everyone. We also have additional services that you can apply for that include one-on-one job coaching support and getting access to free job training. These services have certain requirements and an application process. The resource room has resources for everyone: high-speed Wi-Fi, computer access, printers, copiers, fax machines, information on training and support services, and job referrals. We also have workshops on everything related to job searching. Workshop topics vary at locations, but often cover topics like preparing for an interview, balancing your budget, looking for a job online, using the network of people you know to get a job, and getting a job through LinkedIn and social media, and much more. We also have a variety of resources you can connect with. Help with resume writing, cover letters, help with job searching, connecting with high school equivalency classes, as well as finding an English class or getting help applying for public benefits and financial aid. We also mentioned that in addition to all these free services available to everyone, there's also additional services you can apply for too, if that makes sense for you. We can offer personal one-on-one job coaching, as well as assistance with finding and paying for job training. To be eligible for these services, you do need to have work authorization in the United States, have completed selective service enrollment, if you are a man 18 and older, proof of your birthday, proof you live in Cook County, although there are some exceptions if you have worked in Cook County before. Through our program called WIOA, also known as the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act, we're able to provide people with access to a variety of types of training, ranging from computers, healthcare, logistics, transportation, and more. The American Job Centers are located all over Cook County, including 5 locations in Chicago, 5 in North, West, and South suburban Cook County. So let's think about how this might work for you. So meet Tony. He works in sales, but he isn't sure what he wants to do next. Tony comes to his local American Job Center because he got laid off his job in sales. He doesn't want to go back and working in sales, but he isn't sure what he wants to do next. Tony hears about the American Job Center from a friend. He doesn't know what to expect, but he finds help identifying career opportunities that he's interested in accessing job training in truck driving field for free connecting with virtual GED classes he can do from home, improving his computer skills through free classes. Tony connects with all these supports through the American Job Center network. Most of us face unemployment, unexpected changes in our careers, or unplanned major events at some points of our lives. That's why the American Job Center is here. We look forward to connecting with you, and we hope that you take the next step in joining us as well. Special thank you to our funders and partners who make this work possible. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your presentation, Media. And Media, if anyone has any questions for you regarding anything that you covered here today, what would be the best way they could go about getting those questions answered?
Alrighty, so if we have those who are interested in going ahead and proceeding forward with the next step, we would highly invite you to use the chat to let us know, and a staff member from Southwest American Job Center at Daly College will be reaching out to you to determine your next steps.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your presentation and your time today, Nidia.
Thank you.
Our next presenter will be the Southwest American Job Center at Daly College, and I do believe our presenter will be Yolanda. Yolanda, are you available to present?
Yes, I am. And Dan, if you mind, stop sharing screen so I can share my screen as well. Thank you very much.
I do believe Nidia will have to stop screen share in order for you to be able to take that over. There you go.
Oh, thank you very much. I am here. I'm sorry, excuse me, everyone. I apologize about that. Let me try this one more time.
No worries.
Okay.
There you go.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Yolanda Bailey, a social career coach too with the Southwest American Job Center at Daly College. And it is a distinct honor and pleasure to present before you this morning so that I can provide this information about the services that we have here at the Southwest American Job Center at Daly College. Now, a little bit about us. Our agency, Employment and Employer Services, has been delivering workforce development and human services for 38 years. We have placed more than 95,000 Chicagoland residents into employment. And we forge relationships with businesses hiring for quality jobs that pay family support and wages. And we also contract with our funders, the Chicago Cook Workforce Partnership, to offer the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act program, also known as WIOA. And I will go into a little further detail about the WIOA program. And also we have our website here. So if you'd like to conduct any further research about our programs, you can visit our website at www.eesforjobs.com. Now, a little bit, I know I mentioned about our funder, the Chicago Cook Workforce Partnership. Well, we follow under the umbrella under the Chicago Cook Workforce Partnership. The partnership was created in 2012 as an umbrella organization operating the public workforce system in the city of Chicago and Cook County. And also, the partnership combines federal and philanthropic resources to provide comprehensive workforce development services to employers and job seekers. So throughout the years, the partnership has helped to place more than 70,000 individuals in employment and has collaborated with more than 2,000 employers and administered more than 400 million in federal and philanthropic funds. So that's a lot. We're really trying to get everyone back to work. Okay. Now for an overview of our Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act program, also known as WIOA for short. Now here's some program basics and a little background. The WIOA program was passed by Congress in 2014, and the WIOA program is available throughout the United States. The main focus of the WIOA program is to help job seekers become employed and to also access occupational training. And this is usually training that's in high growth, high demand areas. And as I've mentioned, our program is overseen by the Chicago Cook Workforce Partnership. And our agency, Employment and Employer Services, operates 4 out of the 10 American Job Centers in Cook County. And all of our services are free of charge. So when you come and you visit our center, you will not expect to pay any costs. Now, good question. What is an American Job Center? Well, our American Job Centers have a variety of job search services and resources for many partner agencies under one roof. And all of our American Job Centers are part of the Illinois WorkNet Center. And many of the services that we offer are federally funded. And that also includes vocational training. So if you've been laid off, if you're low income, or if you're an out of school youth between the ages of 18 to 24, you may be eligible for our program. And I will touch on parts of eligibility regarding our program later during this presentation. Now, just like our counterparts, the one-stop operator, we also have a resource room. Now, because we've been operating in a COVID-19 pandemic mode, we do accept customers by appointment only to the resource room, okay? And also, in our resource room, you may register for Illinois Job Link. And Illinois Job Link is a site that actually matches your skills to a new job. We can provide assistance to you in obtaining your GED. We also create referrals to English as a second language or ESL and literacy programs. We also have information about youth training and education programs. And we create referrals to community college, continuing education. And we also have information about employment and training programs for people with disabilities. So we have a lot of resources. Now, within our resource room, as I mentioned, that our resource room, while we've been operating in COVID-19 pandemic mode, we're accepting appointments only. And within our resource room, we also have computers, internet access, copy machine, fax machine, and phones. And all of our services that we operate in the resource room, customers must be conducting job search and/or training related research only. And then also, we have specialized computer software and tools to help you build your resume. Sometimes we may have a customer who may have not constructed a resume in many years. Well, we have a program called One-Way Resume Writing Program, which is a template in which you can place your basic information inside of that template. And the template will print out a basic resume for you. Also, you may access job opportunities through Illinois WorkNet, Illinois Job Link. And then we also have an assistive technology machine for people with disabilities. And also, we provide assistance in navigating the Illinois WorkNet site. So the research room is like having your own home office. Now, we also offer various workshops here at Southwest American Job Center, also known as Employment and Employer Services. We have a calendar that we encourage individuals to log on to, as with our calendar, you will see our daily activities and workshops that we offer. And we offer workshops such as resume development, job search strategies, emotional intelligence and job retention, using a LinkedIn account, interviewing and attending job fairs virtually. And we ask that you please keep up with our calendar because we offer new workshops constantly. And our additional resources, we provide information, and right now, because we're in COVID-19 pandemic mode, most of the information that we provide about different hiring and resource events are virtual. And also, we offer computer lab tutorials, and we also create referrals to supportive services. And we create referrals to supportive services such as English as a second language or ESL/literacy programs, individual and family counseling, substance abuse counseling, services for homeless individuals, public benefits, and legal assistance. And now I'm going to touch on the different aspects of WIOA. As I mentioned previously, that in our WIOA program, which is also known as the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act program, there are certain titles in which a customer may be determined eligible for the program. And there's actually 3 titles. We have our adult program, which solely goes on review of customers' income, whether or not low income or receiving any government subsidy. Then we have our dislocated worker program, which is for our individuals who have lost their jobs through no fault of their own, maybe through a massive layoff or a company closure. And then also a dislocated worker could be someone who's formerly self-employed, but now unemployed, or a displaced homemaker. And also, we have a youth portion of our WIOA program in which youth must be out of school and between the ages of 18 to 24 to participate in our youth program. And within our youth program, we provide job placement, job training, resume assistance, and vocational training. Okay, and as I've mentioned, typically, WIOA services are delivered in person, but however, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we've been providing virtual services and some services by appointment only. And for our virtual services, we do encourage that customers have access to a computer, laptop, tablet, or phone, as certain activities may be viewed on the Zoom platform, which is similar to the platform that we're on now. We encourage that you have a phone to make and receive calls, and also access to a good email address. And if you'd like more information, we encourage that you please follow us on social media, as we know that social media is the way for the future. We're also on Twitter. All 4 of our, out of our 4 American Job Centers, out of the 10 American Job Centers that are here, are on Facebook. And also, we have a LinkedIn page. And I thank everyone very much. And I will place my name and email address inside of the chat if anyone has any additional questions or concerns. Thank you very much for allowing me to present before you today.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that presentation, Yolanda.
Thank you.
And again, as Yolanda stated, if you do have any questions regarding anything that she covered or just any general questions about some of the services that her organization provides, please feel free to check out the chat where she will provide her contact information here shortly. Our next presenter will be the Illinois Department of Employment Security, and it will be a brief overview of resources that are available to veterans and spouses. Our presenter will be Marlena. Marlena, are you available to present?
I am.
Fantastic. You can begin whenever you're ready, Marlena.
Hi, my name is Marlena Ragland. I am a DVOP, which is an acronym for Disabled Veteran Outreach Program Specialist. But I encourage you to not let the disabled in my title discourage you. The disabled actually refers to my status as a disabled veteran. I am an honorably discharged, retired Army veteran. Next slide. So here you see my acronym as well as LVER, which is lever. It stands for Local Veteran Employment Representative. Statewide, Illinois is authorized 22 DVOPs and 18 levers. We are considered JVSG staff. JVSG stands for Jobs for Veterans State Grants under the umbrella of IDES, which is Illinois Department of Employment Security. Next slide, please. So here you see, excuse me, what are the lever and DVOP requirements. However, I have to make a couple of changes. It says must have bachelor's degree, must be honorably discharged. For DVOP, requires knowledge, skill, mental development equivalent to completion of 4 years of college with courses in social or behavioral sciences, business administration, or marketing. It requires an other than honorable discharge from the armed services of the United States, with preference given to qualified disabled veterans and other qualified veterans in that order. So many of us who are veterans know that across the sister services, there's 5 different types of discharges. If you get a dishonorable discharge, that is not considered being eligible. It's other than honorable and above. For a leaver, it requires knowledge, skill, and mental development, also equivalent to completion of 4 years of college, with courses in social or behavioral sciences, business administration, or marketing. This one requires 1 year professional experience in marketing, public relations, or a related field, and also requires an other than dishonorable discharge from the armed services of the United States. Next slide, please. So here it kind of shows you what the, excuse me, I apologize. It kind of shows you what the DVOP duties are. DVOPs are tasked with providing veterans with individualized career and training services. One of the challenges that veterans may face when they are seeking job opportunities is significant barriers to employment, also what we refer to in our world as SBEs, which include issues like substance abuse, mental health issues, and homelessness. The DVOP specialists provide intensive services to meet the employment needs of disabled veterans and other veterans, with the maximum emphasis directed towards serving those who are economically or educationally disadvantaged, including homeless veterans, veterans with barriers to employment. DVOP specialists are actively involved in outreach efforts to increase program participation among those with the greatest barriers to employment. So just because, you may not have your high school diploma, GED, we work within the AJCs in different partnerships to try to find those resources. So if you're looking at the DVOP and you don't necessarily know or understand what I may have just said, we are a resource. We are a resource, and we are connectors to resources that we ourselves may not actually have available at our fingertips, but we work to make sure that you are provided with those resource materials and people. Next slide, please. Lever, LVER, local veteran employment representatives. They advocate for job-seeking veterans by serving as the liaisons with employers and training providers. The levers conduct outreach to employers, and they engage in advocacy efforts with hiring executives to increase employment opportunities for veterans. They encourage the hiring of disabled veterans and generally assist veterans to gain and retain employment. Lever staff conduct seminars for employers and job search workshops for veterans seeking employment. They also facilitate priority of service in regard to employment, training, and placement services furnished to veterans by all staff of the employment service delivery system. So previously, when I was speaking on slide 4, I said that we all work in partnerships. It's the same way with LVERs. Some veterans, they encounter employers that may be apprehensive about hiring veterans due to, maybe some mental health issues that are perceived, varying disabilities, different things of that nature. So the local veteran employment representatives, they work to debunk those myths and to make sure that employers understand that hiring a veteran is more of a valuable resource as opposed to a hindrance to their productivity and their company ideologies. Next slide, please. So to meet the specific needs of veterans, particularly veterans with barriers to employment, the DVOP and the Lever staff are thoroughly familiar with the full range of job development services and training programs available at the State Workforce Agency, One-Stop Career Centers, and Department of Veterans Affairs Vocational Rehabilitation and Employment Program locations. So I thank you for listening to my presentation. I will place my email address as well as my supervisor's email address in the chat. If you want to reach out to me, the best way to do that is via email. As I said before, we are stationed across the state of Illinois. So no matter what your geographic location is, if you reach out to me, I can at least do a warm handoff to get you to where you need to go. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you for that great information, Marlena. And as Marlena stated, if you are a veteran in need of services that were covered by Marlena, please feel free to take a look at that chat and reach out to her at that contact info she will be providing. Thank you again, Marlena. Our next presenter will be Julie again, and it will be for Richard J. Daley College. Julie, are you available to present?
I am.
Fantastic. You can begin whenever you're ready.
Hi, everybody. Nice to see you guys again. So I'm going to talk to you about 3 different things. First is a scholarship opportunity at Daley College. So I'll talk about other programs at Daley, and then I'll talk about city colleges. We, Daley College, have a large grant to give scholarships that we're calling TechWorks. This is for people who are interested in studying manufacturing. And because of the terms of this scholarship, the focus is on people who live in certain zip codes. So it's generally the zip codes around Daley College and our satellite campus, AVI, which is on Western and 28th Street. I'm going to do a screen share and show you the flyer. So this is a copy of the flyer. Basically, this is a great opportunity. So not only will people who are interested in this opportunity get tuition, but it covers their books, and every time participants complete a class successfully, they receive $200. So there are really not a lot of downsides if this is something that you're interested in doing. The programs that we have are all in the manufacturing area. So that's factory automation, CNC, and welding. Factory automation is kind of similar to becoming a mechanic, but it's mechanic for machines. CNC is programming computers that operate manufacturing equipment, and welding is using one of those burning arches to join metal together. I'm going to do another screen share and show you the website, and I'll paste the website into the chat. But we have a website, you can apply right on the website. It has the same information that I just shared with you, and you can get started on the application. We purposely keep the application really easy because we don't want people to say, too much trouble, I'm not going to apply. So I'll take off screen share, but I will paste that into the chat. But I'm going to ask quickly if anyone has any questions about that. So questions that you might have is, when do you need to apply by? And the answer is, this application is rolling, meaning you can apply today, you can apply in 5 months. So, but grants don't last forever. So if this is something that you're thinking about doing, I would encourage you to apply right away. And this is basically, you need to be a Chicago resident and live in the zip codes in kind of the target area. We didn't set the terms. This was the terms of the opportunity that we received. And preference is given to candidates of color, but it's doubtful that we're going to turn people down for this. So I'd encourage you to get started. Now, some of the nice things that go along with this scholarship are true with every program at Daley College and at each of the different city colleges. So students at city colleges have free access to the Wellness Center. The Wellness Center is there to support students with physical and emotional issues. It's all free and confidential. We also have a tutoring center at each of the campuses. Many people, myself included, didn't pay attention to something or other in high school. For me, it was math. And so there are areas where we need some extra help to get through things. We have excellent tutoring centers, and they're all very student friendly. So they're opened at various hours. There are tutors that help in all the different areas. It's free. You can meet with a tutor as many times as you choose to. So that's available. I'm the Director of Career Services at Daly, and I'm very good friends with my colleagues at all of the 7 sister campuses, and we're all very friendly and approachable and helpful. I like to tell students my job is to help you. So we'll help with all the things we've been talking about today. So resumes, interview preparation, and all that kind of good stuff, but also kind of making a plan, which often can really get people to feel motivated and to stay on track. We have excellent libraries, and now the library resources are all online. So if you're one of those people who wants to go into the library, go for it. There are librarians on the campuses. I believe it's until 9 o'clock at night every day of the week. But 24/7, you can access the library resources. If you're not interested in the Technology Work Scholarship, but you are interested in another program at city colleges, in a minute I'll take you to the website so you can see it. But I would encourage you. WIOA dollars are a possibility. Some people are able to get financial aid. There are many different ways to pay for your education. And so City Colleges is very resourceful about finding ways to help students pay. We have Technology Works, but other campuses have other similar programs. And so I would not let paying for it be the thing that stands between you and pursuing the education that you're interested in. For some people, if a GED is a barrier, we have free GED classes, very easy to sign up. So if that is something, just get it done. It'll make the rest of your life proceed a little bit more smoothly, because it will, if not open doors, it will mean that more doors are open for you. Does anyone have any questions?
Julie, taking a look at the chat here, it does look like we got quite a few questions, but I think one of the really good ones that we did receive here is how can folks go about seeing if they meet those geographical requirements that you referenced earlier for the services that are provided?
So the geographical requirements are only for the Technology Works grant. If you're interested in the grant, I would say apply and don't worry about your zip code. We at this point have a lot of opportunities. It would be doubtful, in my opinion, I'm going to try turning my video because I do hear the interference. It would be doubtful that someone would not, no, I still hear the interference, sorry about that. It would be doubtful that someone would be turned away, but if you happen to live close to Daly or ABI, I wouldn't worry about it too much. So I would say apply. You could apply, you can take a tour of Daly campus. Most of us will be back on campus beginning July 6th. So if you wanted to walk around and see our new manufacturing facility, it is spectacular. As I told you, I'm terrible at math, so I can't tell you how many millions we spent on it, but it's a lot of zeros. It's state of the art, very exciting for people interested in industry. Manufacturing is something I knew nothing about before I came to Daly, but now I know a little bit. And I can say the different pathways are quite different. So if you're a techie kind of a person, CNC might be something you're real interested in. If you're hands-on, a lot of people love welding, so give that some thought. And if you're one of those people who likes to fix stuff, maybe factory automation is a good choice for you. But I know when I first heard manufacturing, I thought, oh, that sounds pretty boring. And then as I've now toured many different manufacturing shops, I've seen there are some that are dark and dirty and old school, but there are a lot that are beautiful and modern and exciting. And we can say, even during the pandemic, manufacturing is an industry where the shops did not shut down. People still need stuff. So it is a very safe. It's also an industry with an associate's degree that you can get on a pathway to making a very substantial salary. I hate to say this, but I will. I have a number of students who make a lot more money than I do. At this point, I actually kind of like saying it because I went into my job because I like helping people, but there definitely are opportunities. Are there other questions? And in a minute, I'm going to take everyone to the City College's website so people know how to find that. Are there any questions? So I'm going to do another screen share. And I will show you the City College's website because it's extremely helpful. I will admit I've saved this, so I didn't go straight to the internet to find it. But basically, this is what the website looks like. For most people who are interested in city colleges, you want to start with looking at student tools. That will give you information about the academic calendar. That means when classes start, when the semesters end, etc. But it also gives you, now you can see my cat, she is back, sorry about that. It'll also give you information about all the different programs that we offer. So I would encourage you take a look. Most things that you want to study are offered at city colleges. I'm going to take off screen share because I do like to look at people when I talk. Community colleges go for 2 years, so you can receive an associate's degree. Then maybe your plan is to transfer and to get a bachelor's degree. You can save a lot of money by going to community colleges for the first 2 years. Just about every college that I know of accepts our credits. If this is something that you want to do, when you work with your advisor, you can say, I want to be an engineer. I recognize I'm going to need to transfer. And you can take classes that will be recognized when you do transfer. Another really nice thing to know is often we have students who have gone to other colleges in the past and maybe didn't finish, but they have some credits. In many, many, many cases, you can work with our admissions staff and an academic advisor, and they will be able to get you credit for the classes you took at another college. And so you may have many of the classes that you already need towards an associate degree. I will tell you a quick happy story. Some years ago, there was a very friendly guy who cleaned my office, and I kind of would work late and he'd be there, and he one day was chatting with me and asked what I did. So I told him, and long story made short, he said, yeah, I took some college classes, but then, you know, life, I never finished. So I said, you know, I would imagine that the classes that you took would still be applicable to a degree now. So he did sit down with an academic advisor. Much of what he had taken in the past was applied to his degree. He did get an associate degree in manufacturing, and it happened faster than he anticipated because he had gotten credit for the other classes. And now he's very happy in his position. So this is the new cat. So if this is something that you're thinking about, I would say go for it. It's always nice to know what's out there. And you might be surprised and say, wow, I just didn't realize that anybody would recognize. So I'm going to ask if there's any questions. And if not, this is the conclusion of my presentation. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't paste into the chat the link to the Technology Works. Are there any questions?
Question for you. If you are in the suburban area and not in the city itself, do you partner with any of the suburban colleges, like the community colleges, or are those like completely separate programs?
They are separate. So I can say a couple of things. If you took classes at a suburban school, they might be recognized. If you live in the suburbs or outside of the Chicago area and you want to take classes at city colleges, you can, but you'll pay a slightly higher fee. I don't remember the rule, but if you work in the city, but maybe you live outside the city limits, there may be an arrangement where you're treated like a city resident. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I lived in the city and then I moved out to the suburbs, and I'm in the process of looking for a new position because I was laid off because of COVID. So now it's just kind of like applying and trying to find something, but I'm finding that I might need to do some more additional training for school.
So I'm pasting my email address into the chat. If you want to email me and give me as much specific information, I'm probably not the person to answer your questions, but I can probably do an e-introduction to someone who can answer your questions. How does that sound?
Great, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Well, thank you very much. Seeing no other questions, this is the conclusion of my presentation. This is Fiona.
Thank you so much for your presentation, Julie. And as Julie stated, if there's anything that you need to follow up on or ask questions about regarding anything that she covered here today, as you'll see in the chat, see her email. Feel free to drop her an email and reach out to her. I'm sure she'll be prompt in her reply. Thank you again, Julie. Our next presenter will be with the Illinois Department of Rehabilitative Services. CJ, are you available to present?
I am available. I start sharing my screen. All right, great. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Carlise Jackson, CJ, and today I would like to share some information and perhaps answer some questions about employment services specialized for people with all types of disabilities, or as I prefer to say, people with differing abilities that is provided by the state. Today, we will briefly answer questions such as who is DOORS, what is VR, what services are provided, who's eligible, and how to apply. So to start, we will talk about who is DOORS, DRS. DRS is the Illinois Division of Rehabilitation Services, and DOORS, as we prefer to call it, is part of the Illinois Department of Human Services. This division promotes community inclusion and accessibility in all aspects of life for people with disabilities by providing support and resources that helps to improve full participation, equality of opportunity, and independence. DOORS has two separate programs available. One supports independent living, but today we will focus on the employment and education program through the vocational rehabilitation program, again known as VR. So VR offers a variety of specialized employment services for people with disabilities, ranging from mild to severe health conditions. We can support you with finding new jobs or career opportunities, advancement, or sponsorship to get specific skills or training needed to get the job, to meet your job requirements. Next is a list of some of the employment services available to our customers. Our services are personalized to meet you where you are based on your specific employment or career goals. This includes some of the services that have been mentioned earlier today, such as job leads, assistance with resumes, completed applications, sponsorship for college and training. But in addition, based on your disability, we also have support with accommodations or assistive technology that can help you perform the task required for your job. So again, based on your needs, some examples are customized or modified tools or equipment, speech recognition software, enlarged print, hearing or listening devices, or even a job coach. And if you're in school, we can help with accommodations such as smart pens, being allowed to have audio recordings for your class, and supportive services can include tutoring to help give you that extra support needed. Once a customer, though, you are the lead member of your VR team. The team goal based on your job choice is to help you find the job you are interested in, qualify for, and perhaps will enjoy that matches your unique strengths and your skills. So while partnering with VR, you could work with a variety of our community partners, some of which you met today, that provide any combination of these services you may need to support your employment goals. Whether you are unemployed, underemployed, don't have a GED or high school diploma, looking to advance in your current job, or if you're not quite sure of what your career journey is, we can help guide you through that. So The big question is, we will discuss is who is eligible. And the answer is anyone having at least one or more of these health conditions, but still want to work. This list doesn't include all health conditions, but some examples can be emotional or mental health like anxiety, depression, bipolar, developmental such as autism, Down syndrome, intellectual or learning challenges that causes difficulty with writing, reading, or math, physical health conditions like arthritis, diabetes, kidney, liver, heart, blood diseases. Or maybe you have a hard time focusing or paying attention because of maybe you have ADD or attention deficit hyperactive disorder. So basically, again, any health condition, even if it's not a visible condition, that you may need to regularly take medications for or see a medical professional. And as I talk about our program, I can't continue without acknowledging that unfortunately, there is a stigma associated with having a disability, even though it is a natural part of the human experience. So many people don't want to identify as a person with a disability, but don't let these prejudices hold you back. VR is a partner and an advocate to help ensure people with disabilities have the same employment opportunities. So if you are an individual with differing abilities, I invite you to partner with a VR counselor. We look forward to working with you as you explore career and employment choices that matches your interests, your unique abilities, your skills, and your individualized needs. And I want to make sure that it's understood that we only identify needs or limitations so we can arrange the proper support needed to help remove it as a barrier or an obstacle. Your VR counselor will work with you confidentially, one-on-one, using strength-based approach to help you create and carry out your plan of employment that focuses on things you can do. And I want to emphasize, we focus on things you can do, regardless of any limitations. So to sum it all up, if you're looking for employment and have at least one disability or health condition, you have a recently acquired condition caused by an accident, aging, or COVID, as we're still managing our pandemic world. If you had an IEP or a 504 while you were in high school, you're currently getting Social Security benefits. We have a partnership with them that can also allow you to be able to work. Or if you don't have any records of a disability, but you feel that you have a condition and you just haven't had it assessed fully, we can also assist you with that. So please make a referral for vocational rehabilitation services for yourself or someone you know using the online site to connect you to your local office. Our contact information is here. I will also post it in the chat for those who are interested in applying, or again, if someone that you know with a differing ability. So in closing, I want to thank you for your time today. And we at DOORS VR Vocational Rehabilitation Program look forward to working with people with disabilities and supporting you in reaching your individual employment goals. So again, I'm going to put my information here in the link. We have 48 local offices that we work with, and I will also include my email address directly to if you have any questions that you would like to ask me. And if you're not able to reach your local office now because we are just getting ready to open back up as we move into phase 5, please again feel free to reach out to me and I can connect you to your local office, a counselor at your local office. So if there's any questions, I am open. And again, I'll post it in the chat.
Doesn't look like we have any additional questions, CJ. So again, I want to thank you for your presentation today. And as CJ stated, she will be putting contact information into the chat. If you do have any questions for her, please feel free to reach out to her directly at the address provided. Thank you so much for your presentation, CJ. Our next presenter will be Legal Aid Chicago. Regina, are you available to present? And Regina, I see you are on the session. I don't know if you're...
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you so much. Let me see, let me just share screen. Share. Alrighty, slideshow. Slideshow. Oh, view, here we go. Wait, no, sorry about this. Here we go. Good afternoon. It is a pleasure to be here this afternoon with you. I'm Gina Rizzo, and I'm with Legal Aid Chicago, and I'm an outreach coordinator. I'm going to discuss, think of us as a resource for you in your employment quest, and a little bit about Legal Aid Chicago. So we've been around for over 50 years, and we provide free civil legal services to families or individuals in Cook County. People in need of free legal help have 3 ways to access Legal Aid Chicago. One is by calling our intake line, or that's Monday through Friday, or they can visit us online 24/7. And right now we have help desks and clinics, and they are virtual at the moment. How does Legal Aid help? 1, through advice. 2, advocacy and negotiation, or 3, representation in court and other proceedings. We have on-site interpreters for Spanish and Polish and French, actually, and for other languages, we use telephone interpreters. And all the information that you discuss with our intake specialists is confidential. We serve low-income residents of Cook County, we do statewide work through clients who are victims of human trafficking, migrant workers, and veterans. We do work with statewide. We also have higher income limits for the following: suburban seniors, veterans, people living with HIV/AIDS, survivors of domestic or sexual violence, and we also have other exceptions for clients depending on the funding. There are the areas of law that we practice are children and family, consumer, housing, public benefits, immigrant and workers' rights, and criminal records relief. So we have priorities. People who contact us will receive, at minimum, legal information and advice or a referral, right? So that legal information is golden, that legal advice is golden, because people will pay $300 to $900 per hour for the legal advice, but not with us. Unfortunately, Legal Aid Chicago does not have the resources to represent everyone who requests legal help. So for example, if you contact our phone lines, they open at 8 o'clock in the morning. By 9 o'clock in the morning, we've met the quota of people for assistance for that day. Legal aid is a huge need, and we try our best to serve as many people as we can. So we've developed priorities to match our legal tools and expertise where we can make the greatest difference for those that we can assist in need. Children and families, they work on personal safety and financial, sorry about that, and financial stability at risk with individuals. And this includes orders of protection, custody and divorce, investigations of parents or other caregivers. We have special education and school discipline pipeline, elder abuse, including financial exploitation. And we do have the ombudsman program for suburban Cook County seniors and Lake County. And so our consumer team of attorneys, they work on foreclosure, utilities, bankruptcy, car title and payday loans, unfair debt collection, consumer fraud, student loans, debts owed to the IRS. Housing, we are known as the gurus of people who live in subsidized housing and are facing eviction. sorry about that, or are seeking to enforce their rights under the lease agreements. We also we work with victims of unlawful discrimination, victims of domestic violence, dating violence, stalking, and assault in their units. Also, we work with people who have a housing choice voucher program. Like I said, all of this assistance is in Cook County. And then also right now, we do have funding to help countywide with the evictions now that you know, with the pandemic and evictions that are going on, we do have that program going on. Our immigrants and workers' rights group of attorneys, they work a lot with IDES, with unemployment insurance benefits, employment discrimination, wrongful termination, FMLA, wage claims, VAWA, U visa, T visa, and other immigration remedies. The legal needs of migrant workers is definitely throughout the state of Illinois is something, and human and survivors of human trafficking is definitely something that we work with statewide. And so when it comes to public benefits, we also have a whole team of attorneys and paralegals. We work on focusing on making sure people get public benefits or keep public benefits. For example, SNAP, TANF, medical assistance, SSI, and Social Security, SSDI, and VA and other benefits for veterans. And so our criminal records relief, we we work with juvenile and adult records of expungement. And as you know, this can definitely help in the employment field. And then we also help with other processes. So for example, if somebody wanted to work in the medical field and they need a letter on behalf, we are happy to write that letter of good conduct. You know, and there's other different things that we work with people who have a record in the meantime. And then we also have various help desks and projects. It is a lot of help desks and special projects that we have. We have, right now we still have our bankruptcy help desk. We have our eviction defense out in Markham. We have ADAPT, which is advanced directives and property transfers for individuals. As well, we have a special veterans project. And so as you can see here, there are different numbers for the different projects that we have. We also do help with federal court pro se people. And then we also have our special HIV project. We have a comprehensive legal assistance program for survivors of sexual violence from adolescents, from children all the way to adults. So, you know, that's definitely something that we have. We also, down there is our migrant project. We also have comprehensive services to survivors of domestic violence for their housing, public benefits, consumer, immigration, and employment needs. And so how do you reach us? You can call us, and as I mentioned earlier, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m., online 24/7, and through our legal clinics and help desks. And so you can email us. Our social media handle is @legalaidchicago.org, or visit us online. Thank you very much. And that's just some of the resources. Like I said, please think of us as a resource for you during your time. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your presentation, Regina. And as Regina has up on the screen, if there's anything that you need to follow up with the organization, please feel free to do so. Our final presenter for today will be Poder. Griselda, are you available to present?
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome, and thank you for joining us today. It's been a lengthy day, and appreciate you hanging in there. I will be as quick as I can, so let me go ahead and share my screen here to get started with the presentation. I am, again, Griselda Piedra. I'm the Community Relations Manager here at Poder. Let me tell you a little bit more about what we do. So we operate through an immigrant integration model. We have English literacy, civic engagement, digital literacy, life skills, financial literacy, and job skills mixed in with all of our services. Where are we located? So we're located on the second floor of Marquette Bank on 61st and Pulaski. We are currently fully remote, so all of our classes are virtual, including our job training opportunities. And you're probably interested in knowing, well, what do we offer? So we offer integrated English, which is basically English as a second language. We have a course called Career Exploration. It comes.
Zelda, looks like you accidentally were placed on mute. There you go.
Thank you. So what do we do? So we offer integrated English. We also have our career exploration program. I'll talk more as I move along with the PowerPoint. We also have our Latinos in Finance, which is our banking program. And we also have our bilingual insurance licensing in property and casualty. Poder also has its social enterprise called Oprima Uno, which is a BPO call center and staffing solutions. But aside from all of this, we also offer career counseling, goal setting, job readiness, resume writing, interview prep, job placements, and retention. Retention being that we continue working with you once you start working with your employer. We follow up to make sure that everything is going well. Is there anything else that you need from us? Any more assistance? Let's talk briefly about our workforce development program. So just again, an overview of the 3 different programs that we offer. As you can see, career exploration is in the top middle. That means it's one of our entry-level programs that's going to lead into your bilingual or into your Latinos in Finance programs. What is our timeline? So currently our upcoming courses won't start until September and October. Our career exploration starts in September. It's a very quick training. We also have our insurance and our banking courses that will start in October, right after our career explorations course ends, with the opportunity of having you already placed in December. So basically by the end of this year, but on your career track. And when I mean career, we're looking at these career opportunities that you're going to see momentarily. So first, I'd like to ask if you're fun, coachable, you're a team player. I mean, if you love to talk to people, if you think you're a responsible and hard worker, we are definitely looking for you for these programs, and any of the job training opportunities that our community offers will be perfect for you. Let's jump in a little bit more about our career exploration. This training is completely in English. At the end of the training, you'll be able to receive a nationally recognized certification in customer service to the Customer Service Institute of America. You'll also receive career counseling and assistance in enrollment in a job training program. What does that mean? That means that through this career exploration, you'll be introduced to a variety of different job training opportunities offered from other organizations and not just for there. So we bring in Daily, we bring in the Greater Chicago Food Depository, we bring in Mujeres Latinas en Acción, a whole bunch of different organizations that have job training opportunities with this career end goal. And we help place you in those organizations as well. Again, the certification comes from Customer Service Institute of America. So once you're done with this training, you know that you have this awesome resume builder that can help you with your career goal. Once you complete this training, then you can move on to either one of our job training programs, which is called the Bilingual Insurance Licensing Program. I'm not sure if you're very familiar with this or not, but the concept property and casualty means that you'll be able to sell car insurance, home insurance, right? All of this is made possible by you getting your license through the state of Illinois. All of the material here will be in Spanish as well as English, but the majority of the course here will be handled in Spanish. Now, you also receive career counseling and full-time job placement with the retention and, of course, guaranteed interviews with our different partners. And I'd like to share with you some of the different career opportunities that you might have. So initially, when you come into your insurance career, if you were to do this on your own, you would come in the entry-level position pre-license, meaning that you would not have a license, right? when you do the program through us, you're actually coming into the insurance industry with your license already. So one step ahead in terms of you'll have a starting salary as your base, plus you'll be making commission right off of day one, with the potential growth of becoming your own agency owner, which a lot of our agencies, our agency partners are really excited to mentor you if this is the option that you're going for. Who are our partners? We work with State Farm, Allstate, and Farmers Insurance. So these are 3 great insurance companies that have room for growth and are ready to take on the challenge of making the best LSP out of you, as well as potentially making you an agency owner as well. This is just Cecilia Estrada. She came into our program. She currently works for Diana Morado at State Farm. She's fully licensed, meaning property, casualty, life, and health. And she's been with her for 2 years, being super successful, and is on track to having her own agency soon as well. Our next program that I'd like to introduce to you is our Latinos in Finance program. This training is completely in English. You'll learn from professional trainers and banking experts. You'll get to learn all about the banking compliance regulations. At the end of this training, you'll be guaranteed your interviews with a lot of our different bank partners. You'll be able to start off as a client service representative, move your way on up to a licensed personal banker, branch manager, and why not become one of the district bank managers as well. Everything that you learn through this training will help you meet all of these different goals and get you on the right track in your financial career. Who our bank partners are? Well, we work with all of these different banks that you see here. We have Bank of America, Chase, First American Bank, Marquette Bank, PNC, Wintrust, Citibank, US Bank, BMO Harris, West Suburban Bank, TCF Bank. We're missing one bank here, which we just acquired, Sentier Bank. They're located in Indiana. Our programs are really expanding and moving on to even our limits of Indiana as well. On here, we'd like to highlight Freddie Ambris. He was working with Marquette Bank. It was a really great opportunity to see one of our students, our trainees in the office, because this particular bank branch is the one that we're so happily located on the second floor of. So every day we would come into work and we would see Freddie, just working and helping the community out with any financial questions they might have, or getting them their new bank account, their new savings account, and just helping the community reach their financial goal as well. So it's a great opportunity to see our partners grow. I'd like to also introduce to you our workforce specialist. Her name is Doris Medina. She will be working with you in making sure that when you become placed, that you have all the necessary tools to continue being placed at the job that you're at, right? To make sure that you're successful. She works with you in preparation with your resume. She works with you in getting you ready for those interviews as well. And if you're looking for an employment, what we call a now job, right? An employment right now, with the goal of making one of these your career options, Doris can help with that process as well. That's her contact information there that you can text or call the number that you see on the screen, which is 312-224-8672, or you can email her at dmedina@poderworks.org. And she'd be happy to assist you with any of those needs that you might have, whether it's job searching or enrolling in a job training opportunity that we provide or that other organizations provide as well. How can you connect with us? There's different ways to connect with Poder. We have several social media platforms that you can connect with us, and we're able to communicate with you via those platforms as well. But you can also call or text us at our main line, which is 312-226-2002. Or you can also register online for our courses at poderworks.org, and you can complete your placement exam. You can select the programs that you're interested in enrolling, and then a staff member would then contact you and complete your registration and get you ready to start your training with us. Any questions in terms of the programs that I offered, that I talked about, You can make sure to add those in the chat, and I'd be more than happy to answer any questions you might have. I will also be adding my contact information in the chat for you, but also just something that I would like to highlight is I'm overseeing the screenshots for this event. So tomorrow I would be available for anybody who's interested in getting that screenshot for your Zoom accounts. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your presentation, Grisella. And as Grisella stated, she is going to be putting her contact information into the chat. So if you do have any questions for her regarding anything that she covered here today, please feel free to reach out to her. And with that, we have reached the conclusion of all of our presentations today. So what I want to go ahead and do is hand things back over to Yolanda to give some summary statements and concluding remarks. Before I do so, a couple things I just want to note. First off, this session has been recorded and it will be uploaded to the Illinois WorkNet YouTube channel later this afternoon. So of course, we know it was kind of lengthy. If there's anything that you need to go back to and review, of course, you'd be welcome to do so once that event has been uploaded and is made public. The second thing that I do want to note again, and I can't stress this enough, if you have not yet registered for the subsequent sessions slated to take place both tomorrow and Thursday, please make sure that you register for those sessions, and you'll want to do so individually. So please be sure to register for each of the sessions that you want to attend, and I will go ahead and drop a link to that registration page here once more into the chat. So please do so if you have not yet already. And with that, I'm going to stop yapping, hand things back over to Yolanda. Yolanda, is there anything that you'd like to say to wrap up today's session?
Yes, I just like to say to everyone, thank you so much for your attendance. It's our sincere hope that you received wonderful, valuable information as you're conducting your job search, your interviews, and especially wonderful information from our partners. I'd like to thank our partner organizations for the wonderful informative information that has been provided. And we do encourage everyone to please come tomorrow and Thursday. Especially tomorrow, we'll have our employer panel in which our employers will present, and you will get a chance to have question and answer sessions with the employers. And most of all, I'd like to thank Dan from SIU for facilitating the Zoom for our event. And we wish everyone a wonderful afternoon, and we hope to see you all back here tomorrow and Thursday. Thank you.